Chapter 561. Pak Yuan's words made He Jiaxi's heart tremble. She only felt that she had completely lost her face and was suddenly at a loss of what to do. Today, she came uninvited. She found out that Jing Yunjiao had a relationship with Pak Yuan, so she wanted to seize the opportunity to steal Jing Yunjiao's backing. When she saw Jing Yunjiao at this banquet, her heart was filled with pride and confidence. She felt that this time, she would definitely make Jing Yunjiao lose face. But now, the one who lost face was her. Pak Yuan actually ignored James. She had never seen such a stupid person who actually refused such a large sum of money. Jing Yunjiao raised his eyes and smiled. His eyes were cold but arrogant. He swept a glance at He Jiaxi and said, "Now, can Missy get out?" He Jiaxi choked. "Jing Yunjiao, you're really something. Just you wait." He Jiaxi angrily snorted. In the next second, she walked out of the hotel with James. In such a big business banquet, there were still some reporters. Therefore, He Jiaxi's appearance when she was asked to leave by the security guard was undoubtedly photographed. There weren't many reporters, but there were also a lot of people present. Among them, there were many girls of the same age as He Jiaxi. For example, at this moment, there was a girl standing near Jing Yunjiao. Just a moment ago, she was still showing off her Y country's exclusive custom-made shoes to Jing Yunjiao. At this moment, she looked as if she had lost her parents. She was angry and embarrassed. After glaring at Jing Yunjiao, she awkwardly changed her position with a wine glass. The reason why this girl originally came over was because she saw Suchu eating nonstop and looking like she had never seen the world. Therefore, she specially came over to show off. Who knew that this group of people actually knew He Jiaxi and made such an ugly scene? If she continued to stay here, it was inevitable that she would accidentally get hurt. Besides, this Jing Yunjiao had a good relationship with President Bai. How could she dare to provoke him? Now that He Jiaxi had left, Jing Yunjiao's surroundings became much quieter. Lifting her feet, she walked back. Bai Yuan smiled as he handed her a cup of wine, and she politely thanked the two people who had just spoken up for her. Xiao Daoan had been standing at the side the whole time, watching with his mouth agape. Jing Yunjiao looked immature, but when she spoke, she knew when to advance and retreat. Chatting with these old figures in the business world, she didn't even have the slightest bit of stage fright. If it was him, he would probably also be nervous. She looked at her daughter again and met her mocking gaze. "Hai Qing, is this recipe really from Jing Yunjiao?" Xiao Daoan couldn't help but ask. Xiao Haiqing rolled her eyes. She picked up a glass of wine and drank it all. "What does that have to do with you?" "Haiqing, I'm your father. Don't always side with outsiders. If you don't tell me anything, I wouldn't have lost so much face just now," Xiao Daoan said again. This Jing Yunjiao always caught him off guard. Previously, it was with the Hong family, and this time, it was also the same. He originally wanted to pave the way for others, but who knew that he would be the one to fall? Look at how unpleasant President Bai's words were just now. Give face to his daughter? Wasn't his daughter's face also his face? Xiao Daoan felt sullen in his heart. That company of his had been established for quite a number of years, but it had slowly developed from Huaning County. Now that he had finally made a name for himself in Ning City, he had put in a lot of effort and thought along the way, but this Jade Spirit Wine Company had merely used a little more than a year's time to surpass him. It had even far surpassed him, and he could not touch it. Xiao Haiqing smiled. "Father, don't expect me to help you. Just pray that I won't harm you." If this wasn't her father, or if the person in front of her was still the competent father her mother had been when she was alive, how good would that be? Chapter 562. Xiao Haiqing squinted her eyes and smiled, her body emitting a strong smell of alcohol. Xiao Daoan looked at his daughter. That kind of disappointment had already become a habit. He stared at her for a while before saying, "You're such a stubborn child. You've done so many wrong things, but haven't I still raised you and helped you? You, on the other hand, want your whole family to starve to death, don't you?" "Get lost," Xiao Haiqing suddenly said. Her voice wasn't loud, and there wasn't any fluctuation in it. Xiao Daoan could withstand the insults of anyone outside, but in front of Xiao Haiqing, he had to gain enough face. Therefore, when his daughter told him to get lost, He subconsciously wanted to get angry, but when he thought of what CEO Bai said just now, he suppressed the anger in his heart and could only abandon his daughter and leave. However, Xiao Daoan didn't leave the hotel. The banquet wasn't over yet, so of course he couldn't give up just like that. After Jing Yunjiao finished exchanging pleasantries with a few people, he took the wine glass from Xiao Haiqing's hand and asked with a frown, "Haiqing, how many glasses have you drunk?" "Not much." Xiao Haiqing smiled, but her eyes were a little blurred. She simply picked up a bottle and gulped it down. Although she had been upset over her father's matter all these years, she had always been very self-disciplined. She did know a lot of hooligans, but ever since her grandfather died, she didn't fool around with others. On the surface, she acted rebellious, but in the past, it was just to attract her father's attention. She had never really indulged herself, but sometimes, she really hoped that she could numb herself. In front of her friends, she flaunted her strength and wanted to save face. She didn't want to talk too much about these private matters. She could even show an attitude of wanting to cut ties with her family, but how could it be that easy? Seeing her father, whom she was once proud of, lowering his head like a clown to please others, and seeing him treat her, a daughter, as a commodity, that feeling was really sad and miserable. Jing Yunjiao sighed faintly. Su Chu and Gan Jinshan looked at each other and glanced at Xiao Haiqing, feeling that it was a pity. No wonder Xiao Haiqing's personality was so independent. It turned out that there was another layer of reason. Yunjiao, sometimes, when I see how he completely forgets my mother, I really want to kill him. Xiao Haiqing leaned her head on Jing Yunjiao's shoulder and continued, "When I was young, my mom told me that my dad was a very hardworking but very capable man. At that time, he was still working for someone else, leaving early and coming home late every day, but my mom never blamed him. She would prepare everything for him and let him have no worries. He said that he wanted to start his own business, and my mom supported him regardless of the cost. At that time, our family was in a huge debt. My grandparents' coffins were all sent to him to squander. He slept outside, and there would often be people coming to collect the debt. My mom was so scared that her face turned pale, but she never cried in front of me and never told him. Her heart wasn't good to begin with, so she didn't make it in the end. At that time, I still felt that my father was still working hard. I thought that he would feel worse than me, but I didn't expect that in less than 3 years, a newbie would enter the family and even get married with a child. Men who only think about their careers are really not good people. They say it's for the family, but it's all an excuse. They're just doing it for themselves," Xiao Haiqing said faintly as she drank. She finished the bottle of wine in a short while. In addition to the previous few glasses, she was completely drunk. Jing Yunjiao and Su Chu said a few words and helped her up to her room to rest. At this time, a waiter walked towards Xiao Daoan and gave him a note, saying, "Sir, a girl wants you to call her back. She said that she has something important to talk to you about." Chapter 563. Xiao Daoan opened the note with a look of surprise. When he saw the number on it, he thought for a moment and dialed it. He had no status at all in this banquet. He didn't know how many name cards he had handed out, but no one was willing to pay attention to him. There were even people who turned around and threw his name cards into the trash can. It was a blow to his self-esteem. On the other end of the phone, a female voice sounded. When Xiao Daoan heard it, he was pleasantly surprised and a little flustered. He didn't seem to fit in with the lively crowd. At this moment, Jing Yunjiao arranged for Xiao Haiqing to stay in a room. Xiao Haiqing was very drunk, and the smell of alcohol on her was very strong. She couldn't even speak clearly. "Yunjiao, why do you have to?" Xiao Haiqing pointed at her shakily and tried to stand up straight. "Oh, I know. Someone is pretending to be you." As soon as she finished speaking, she pushed Jing Yunjiao away. "Monster, go away. I want Yunjiao." With that, she fell onto the bed. Jing Yunjiao blushed with shame. Xiao Haiqing was still mumbling something. It looked very funny, and Jing Yunjiao was dumbfounded. She couldn't believe that a person could be so different before and after being drunk. After settling her down, Jing Yunjiao went downstairs. Su Chu and Gan Jinshan were both there. After all, she was half the host, so she couldn't just abandon them. The banquet was still very lively. Because she had mentioned the wine recipe, More people approached her than before. "Miss Jing, I heard from Director Zhang that you're a doctor. I wonder if you can let me have a look?" Just as he sent one away, another person came forward. This person was about 40 years old. He had a prominent belly, a short and fat figure, and was a little bald. There were many people who looked like him, but the one who suddenly appeared in front of her looked a little wretched. As he spoke, he sat beside Jing Yuanzhao and sized her up. His eyes shone with a lewd light, and his face was full of expectation. Jing Yuanzhao turned to look at the man. "Sir, I'm afraid you can't afford my consultation fee." Although there were people who were willing to be her backer, others might not treat her as someone important. She was afraid that although they looked respectful on the surface, they would think that she was just a gold digger who used the name of a doctor to hunt for men. After all, at her age, no one would believe that she was a godly doctor. Those who believed in her were only people who had experienced it firsthand. Outsiders would never be able to understand. When Jing Yuanzhao said that, the man snorted in his heart, but on the surface, he was smiling like a flower. He stared at her and said, "Miss Jing, you must be joking. Although I can't compare to someone like Director Zhang, I can still be considered a little famous. Let's put it this way, I also have a pretty good advertising company under my name. Oh right, my brother is the CEO of a listed gaming company. Miss Jing is so beautiful. How about I introduce you to be the spokesperson for the game?" As the man spoke, he began to become a little arrogant. His body was getting closer and closer. "Advertising company?" Jing Yuanzhao smiled. "Sir, don't tell me you want to take the order of Yuling wine?" The other party was stunned, and his face showed a little embarrassment. "Didn't I hear that Yuling is going to launch a new product? Our company still has some strength. It's one of the top 3 advertising companies in Ning City. It's a big company, so if you leave it to us, Director Bai can rest assured. Since you're so confident, why are you looking for me?" Chapter 564. The man's lips curled into a dry smile. Why was he looking for Jing Yuanzhao? Of course, there was a reason. On the one hand, President Bai liked Jing Yuanzhao very much. If she agreed, the advertisement plan might really be successful. On the other hand, Jing Yuanzhao was quite good-looking. It was a man's instinct to get close to beautiful women. Isn't it because Miss Jing's looks are outstanding? It would be a pity if such a talent doesn't enter the entertainment industry in the future. Although it's just a game endorsement now, it's still a start. My big brother has a wide network. In the future, he might introduce you to some big directors. By then, you will definitely have limitless prospects in the entertainment industry. With your potential, I guarantee that many fans will follow you. Everyone will be envious, the man said again. He didn't believe that such a young girl could resist the temptation of fame. The man's face was full of confidence. Jing Yuanzhao couldn't help but laugh when he heard that. "So that's the case?" Jing Yuanzhao mocked and said, "But it's a pity that I'm not interested in the entertainment industry. Besides, can you represent your big brother? I've seen many people like you who talk about the abilities of their relatives and friends. In fact, it's just nonsense. Also, can you stay away from me? Your eyeballs are about to fall out." After Jing Yuanzhao finished speaking, Suchu laughed and said directly, "Aren't you just trying to bribe Yuanzhao to get him to help? Just say it directly. Why are you pretending to be a wolf?" He kept calling him Big Brother. Was he a fox pretending to be a tiger? When Suchu said that, the man's face stiffened. "Miss Jing, I'm very sincere." As he said that, he thought of something. He paused and quickly took out a small brocade box from his pocket. "I'm different from those people. Miss Jing, don't misunderstand. I already knew that Miss Jing was beautiful, so I specially chose a bracelet as a gift. I hope you like it." As he said that, he opened the box. Inside the box was a diamond bracelet worth about tens of thousands of yuan. The bracelet was beautiful, but Jing Yuanzhao didn't believe that it was a gift from him. She glanced around and saw a woman glaring angrily in her direction. Her gaze was fixed on the brocade box in the man's hand, and the wine glass in her hand was about to be crushed. This man's gift was probably for his little lover, right? It was just that he had taken it out at the last minute to keep up appearances. Not to mention that she was not interested in other people's leftover gifts. Even if the present in front of her was a priceless treasure, it would not change her mind about such a wretched man. Jing Yunzhao remained motionless. The man's hand stiffened. Miss Jing, your woman is staring at me, sir. Do you take me for a fool? Jing Yunzhao sneered. Also, I believe that President Bai won't give such a thing as publicity to someone like you who looks unreliable, especially someone like you who doesn't take the right path. You even want to establish a relationship with me. So, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. Jing Yunzhao was still polite. This person was invited by Pak Yuan. He was a guest, so it was not a big deal to give him some face. Pak Yuan told her that he was considering the publicity. At present, there were 3 companies that he was interested in. They were all famous, but one of them had a high price and a good team. One of them was more stable and moderate. The last one had a low price and a wide network, but it seemed that its strength was not as good as the first 2. The last one should be the company of the man in front of her, right? Chapter 565. As soon as Jing Yunzhao rejected him, the man's expression turned ugly. Does Miss Jing think that my price is too low? The man put away the things in his hands and thought for a moment before saying, I didn't expect such an elegant and refined person like Miss Jing to have such a big appetite. How about this? If President Bai is willing to give the contract to our company, I'm willing to pay Miss Jing another commission. I guarantee that Miss Jing will be satisfied. How about that? His words were a little too direct. Suchu and Gan Jinshan's expressions changed, but they didn't know Jing Yunzhao's true identity, so it wasn't easy for them to say some things. Jing Yunzhao didn't get angry. Instead, she laughed. She wasn't stupid enough to cheat her own company. Judging from the way this man handled things, his company probably wasn't that good either. If he really got the contract, he probably wouldn't be able to come up with a plan that satisfied her. It would be troublesome then. Sir, I can tell you very clearly that you are now completely unqualified to compete with the other 2 companies, Jing Yunzhao said. Miss Jing, what do you mean? The man was stunned. Isn't the meaning clear enough? You've lost the right to compete. Our Yuling Wine Company's publicity will definitely not be handed over to your company. Not now, not ever. As for your gift, I think you should return it to your little lover. Don't disgust me, Jing Yunzhao said as she got up to leave. The other party immediately reached out to stop her. Stop. Miss Jing, don't think that I won't dare to do anything to you just because you have someone backing you. If I tell President Bai that you seduced me, even if he doesn't believe it, he'll feel uncomfortable in his heart, right? The man quickly said. She was just a stinky woman who flirted with all kinds of men. She had long been played by others. Why was she acting innocent in front of him now? He had already given her benefits, but she was still not satisfied. Her appetite was too big. Jing Yunzhao was so angry that she laughed. Just as she was about to speak, she saw the man reach out to take her over. Suddenly, her eyes were stunned. She lifted her foot and kicked his lower body directly. Even though Jing Yunzhao's shoes weren't very high, they were still very sharp. Adding on to the fact that her strength wasn't small, her aim was extremely accurate. This kick directly made the man hold onto his lower body and howl in pain. It had only stopped for a short while, but it had actually attracted quite a bit of commotion. You little bitch. The man was about to jump up. His splayed legs looked particularly funny. Suchu blushed and felt a little embarrassed. Jing Yunzhao rubbed his shoes. My hands and feet are unruly. I deserve it. With just a few simple words, the way everyone looked at this man changed. Jing Yunzhao's appearance was outstanding. In just a short period of time, there were already quite a number of people who went up to hit on her. However, most of them had bad intentions but didn't have the guts to do so. They also wanted to make friends with her. None of them were so lustful to the point of getting physical with her. It was just that they didn't expect there to be someone bold. Pak Yuan's face was very cold. Did President Qian Jr. touch you? I didn't touch him. If I did, I wouldn't have been so gentle, Jing Yunzhao said directly. As soon as this was said, many men took a deep breath. They only felt an inexplicable chill on their bodies. Especially when they saw President Qian Jr. sweating, their lower body went soft. Moreover, Jing Yunzhao actually said that she was too gentle. That was the lifeblood of a man. If something happened to him, he wouldn't be able to enjoy the luck of a woman for the rest of his life. Chapter 566. Although he didn't touch her, this CEO Qian Jr. did make a move. Bai Yuan frowned and coldly swept a glance at CEO Qian. CEO Qian, this is my Yuling Wine Company's anniversary party. It's not some improper place. If you can't control your sperm, then please leave. The women here aren't people you have the qualifications to touch. Mr. Qian's face turned pale. Mr. Bai, this is all a misunderstanding. He gritted his teeth and his posture was a little awkward. There's no misunderstanding. There were many people who came to talk to Yun Zhao. Why did she target you? If you didn't do anything, I won't believe it. Pak Yuan said angrily. This was his big boss. It was rare for her to attend a party. He wanted to take this opportunity to let her know more people in the business world and let her adapt to the social circle. When she took over the company in the future, she wouldn't be flustered. Who knew that there would be so many blind people looking for trouble? Mr. Qian's heart was blocked. He came to curry favor with Jing Yun Zhao, but he didn't expect to suffer a double loss in the end. Wasn't she just a little girl? She had an arrogant attitude and didn't even accept his good intentions. The Yuling Wine Company had to choose one of the three companies. It wasn't difficult for her to say a few good words to CEO Bai, and CEO Bai wouldn't blame her at all. She wouldn't lose anything and would even benefit from it. She actually didn't want to do such a thing. That was fine, but she actually hit him. Mr. Qian's face turned pale. The pain was still unbearable. At this moment, it was hard for him to say anything. Director Qian could only say, Director Bai, calm down. I think I should leave first then. He walked out with strange steps. Jing Yun Zhao glanced at them and said, there should be quite a few people here who want to work with Yuling Wines. Everyone here is a businessman and benefits come first. However, there are some people who want to take a shortcut, thinking that I can influence CEO Bai's thoughts. Towards these kinds of people, I'm afraid CEO Bai will never work with them in the future. As soon as he said that, many people understood in their hearts. On one hand, Boss Qin Jr.'s hands were dirty. More importantly, he wanted to attack Pak Yuan from Jing Yun Zhao. She just didn't expect Jing Yun Zhao to be such a tough nut to crack. No wonder CEO Bai trusted her so much. There were plenty of people who were letting their imaginations run wild. But after Jing Yun Zhao's words, they all became more vigilant. Everyone has seen the results of our Yuling wines in the past year. The reason why we can go further than other companies in the same period is not only because of luck, but also because of our responsible attitude. So, if you have any ideas, you can talk to me. However, if you disturb someone you shouldn't, then I'm sorry. Just like Mr. Qin Jr., I won't accompany you, Pak Yuan said. Most of the people around had the intention of chatting with Jing Yun Zhao, so they purposely stood nearby. When they heard Jing Yun Zhao's words, their expressions changed, extinguishing any thoughts they had. Jing Yun Zhao was also tired after being tossed back and forth. He told Pak Yuan that he was going to rest in his room. It was obviously much quieter upstairs, which made people relax. But when he passed by Xiao Haiqing's room, he saw a housekeeper cleaning. He was surprised and walked in. The bed was empty. Where is the person in this room? Jing Yun Zhao said coldly. Are you talking about Miss Xiao? It seems that her father just took her away. In fact, I'm not very sure. You can ask the front desk. The housekeeper replied carefully. Although she was facing a little girl, she still felt very nervous. Chapter 567. In an instant, Jing Yun Zhao looked like he wanted to kill someone. His expression was frighteningly cold. He immediately called the waiter over and asked about the situation. I seem to have said that no one is allowed to enter this room except for me, right? At this time, Jing Yun Zhao had already asked Gan Jinshan to call Xiao Haiqing while Su Chu contacted Xiao Daoan. Jing Yun Zhao looked coldly at the frightened waiter. She had arranged this room. When she went downstairs, she told the waiter not to let anyone disturb Xiao Haiqing's rest. She didn't expect that not long after her instructions, Xiao Haiqing would be taken away. The waiter looked nervously at Jing Yun Zhao and pouted. That person is Miss Xiao's biological father. I have no reason to stop him. Jing Yun Zhao stood in front of the waiter and stared at her fiercely. No reason? This room was booked with my ID, right? Is it appropriate for you to bring someone in without my permission? The waiter was shocked by Jing Yun Zhao. No, nothing will happen. That person is her father, the waiter said again. Her hand instinctively covered her pocket. Jing Yunjiao's eyes were like torches. He glanced over, and his expression became colder. You received a tip from him? No. The waiter quickly said, call your manager over. Jing Yunjiao's attitude was firm. He looked at the girl in front of him with disgust. You will soon know that some small advantages shouldn't be taken by you. Otherwise, you will lose a lot. Choo-choo, Jinchen. Did you get through? Jing Yunjiao restrained himself and turned to ask. The two of them frowned and shook their heads. Gan Jinchen also looked worried. Yunjiao, Uncle Xiao. He won't do anything, right? After all, she was his biological daughter. It was possible that he was worried because Haiqing was drunk. Jing Yunjiao also hoped that she was thinking too badly of him. After all, although Xiao Daoan didn't get along with Xiao Haiqing's father and daughter in the past, he was still very protective of Xiao Haiqing. It was just that she kept feeling that things weren't that simple. Sometimes, Xiao Daoan could be considered a gentleman, but that was only when it didn't involve his own interests. He had always been indifferent to Xiao Haiqing. Aside from roaring angrily and scolding her, he had never taken the initiative to show concern for her, especially after that kind of conflict had occurred today. Logically speaking, it was impossible for Xiao Daoan to be so kind as to send her home to recuperate. What do we do now? Gan Jinchen asked. Now that they didn't know if Xiao Daoan had returned home, it wasn't good for them to chase after him. There were so many cars on the street outside. Who knew which road Xiao Daoan took? What direction did they go? Jing Yunjiao clenched his fists helplessly. Not long after, the manager hurried over. When he saw that the one causing trouble was Jing Yunjiao, he immediately became listless. Just now, when they were in the lobby downstairs, even though the commotion Jing Yunjiao made wasn't that big, as the manager, he had been waiting in the lobby the whole time. Thus, even if it was just a little bit of friction, he would still be able to hear it clearly. Miss Jing, what happened? The manager's attitude was ingratiating. Seeing the manager's attitude, the waiter also became a little nervous. He hurriedly said, Manager, the girl who stayed in this room just now was taken away by her father. Miss Jing insisted that I accepted that person's money. Jing Yunjiao couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with the waiter. He said directly, I reminded her that no one else was allowed to enter this room except for me, but in the end, she took the room card and opened the door to let someone take my friend away. Is this how your hotel does things? Chapter 568. The manager's heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly said, Miss Jing, I'm really sorry. This is our negligence. As soon as the manager spoke, the waitress's face turned pale. She looked nervous and stunned, as if she didn't know what to do. It has already happened, and it's impossible to undo it. But I don't want to see this waitress in your hotel anymore, Jing Yunjiao said directly. She didn't have the intention to cause trouble. Even if she did, she would just ask the hotel to compensate her or waive the room fee. This amount of money was nothing to her, and she didn't need to waste her breath on this amount of money. However, this waiter couldn't stay. There was no reason for him to get away with his wrongdoings. The waitress's eyes widened when she heard that. Manager, I didn't do anything wrong. That person is indeed Miss Xiao's father. Shouldn't a father take his daughter away? It's natural for me to open the door for him. The waitress hurriedly said. She did take the money. It wasn't much, just 500 yuan. When Mr. Xiao came to inquire, she didn't allow anyone to enter according to Miss Jing's request, but he said that he was Miss Xiao's father. He also said that Miss Xiao was drunk, and he was worried about her staying in the hotel. So she hesitated and felt that it shouldn't be a problem. After all, they were father and daughter, and Mr. Xiao wasn't a bad person. Besides, he was a guest at the banquet. The customer was God, and she didn't do anything wrong. The manager was also a little embarrassed. Miss Jing, since Miss Xiao was taken away by her father, it seems that the manager thinks that your waitress didn't do anything wrong? Jing Yunjiao's expression was a little dangerous. The manager looked and hurriedly said, Wrong? Of course she did something wrong. Miss Jing, don't worry. We will definitely give you an explanation for this matter. This Jing Yunjiao wasn't a normal customer. She was Director Bai's most precious person. She knew quite a few business tycoons. If they really offended her, then their hotel's business would definitely be affected. If this Miss Jing was someone who held grudges, then the hotel would face a lot of trouble in the future. Xiao Wang, Go to the finance department to get your salary and leave. From today onwards, you are no longer an employee of our hotel, the manager said again. The waitress's face fell when she heard that. Why? She was just following the guest's wishes. Why did they fire her? Manager, I'm not convinced. If I hadn't allowed Mr. Xiao to take his daughter away just now, he would have definitely made a scene. Maybe he would have said that the hotel deliberately detained his daughter and refused to let her go. Anyway, Miss Xiao had to go home. Wasn't it just right for her father to take her home now? What did I do wrong? The waiter retorted. Since she was about to be fired, what else could she not say? Jing Yunjiao sneered and walked up to her. He looked down at her and said coldly, "You're not convinced? Ever since I started talking to you, you've been subconsciously protecting your pockets. There's money in there, right? There are also surveillance cameras installed in this hotel. Do I need to check them? Are you really doing this for the sake of your father-daughter relationship or for the tip? You're right. It's reasonable for Mr. Xiao to take his daughter away. However, you disobeyed my orders as a guest. It's not wrong for me to hold you accountable. Firing you is a light punishment." Jing Yunjiao said as he grabbed the man's wrist and took the money from his pocket. In addition to the money, there was also a beauty card from a high-end beauty salon. Chapter 569. Jing Yunjiao looked at the beauty card and the few hundred yuan notes and directly threw the person out. Do you still need me to investigate the origin of this card? Every card sold by this kind of beauty salon is recorded. Whether or not it has anything to do with Xiao Daoan will be clear when the time comes. Jing Yunjiao said again. The waitress staggered and was thrown out, her whole body falling to the ground. When she saw the membership card, her face was extremely flustered. Manager, this card was given by Mr. Zhao's wife. Which girl didn't like to be beautiful? She had never been to such a high-class beauty salon, so she wanted to take a look. It wasn't rare for the guests in this hotel to tip, so she didn't think there was anything wrong at that time. The manager's face was extremely ugly. Don't embarrass yourself here. Leave the hotel immediately, or I'll get the security to escort you out later. The waitress was shocked. However, this was just a job. Although the treatment was good, there was no need to bow and scrape to others for that little bit of salary. Therefore, when the waitress saw that the manager's attitude was getting worse, she didn't stay any longer. She quickly got up from the ground, took the card and money, and turned to leave without saying anything. However, before she left, she couldn't help but roll her eyes at Jing Yunjiao and grumble. What's so great about that? Just because you know a few rich people, you can make a scene. You only know how to bully small waitresses like us. Her voice wasn't loud, but Jing Yunjiao heard it clearly. Immediately, a silver needle in Jing Yunjiao's hand was thrown out. The waitress only felt a slight pain from the needle on her back, but she didn't think too much about it. She moved her body and continued to walk forward. Jing Yunjiao glanced at her and didn't care anymore. She had specially made many silver needles to put in her space. They were considered to be relatively useful hidden weapons. As long as the distance wasn't too far, she could guarantee that she would hit the target 100% of the time. Moreover, the silver needles were thin, so even if they were under the eyes of others, they wouldn't be discovered. Just now, he didn't hit the waitress very hard. The silver needles wouldn't harm her life, but she would still be tortured on a daily basis. As soon as the waiter left, the manager kept apologizing. Behind him, Su Chu and Gan Jinchen still couldn't get through to Xiao Daoan and Xiao Haiqing's calls. In his anxiety, Jing Yunjiao directly got someone to drive the three of them to the Xiao family. At this moment, Xiao Haiqing was lying in the car. The one driving in front was Xiao Daoan, and Zhang Rong was sitting beside Xiao Haiqing. She was holding a bottle of wine in her hand and continuously pouring it into Xiao Haiqing. Xiao Daoan looked at his daughter's drowsy appearance from the rearview mirror and felt complicated. Rong, it's about time. Don't let her drink anymore. Zhang Rong looked at Xiao Haiqing with a look of disgust. She then said worriedly, Hubby, it's not like you don't know Haiqing's temper. If she sobers up, we don't know what she will do. It's better to drink more. Anyway, she was drowsy now. After she handed the wine over, Xiao Haiqing took the initiative to pour it into her mouth. She didn't force her to do so. Xiao Daoan frowned. That's true. Be careful. Don't let her drink until she vomits. Don't worry. I think Haiqing's alcohol tolerance is quite good, Jiang Rong said again. After a while, Jiang Rong shook Xiao Haiqing's body and probed, Haiqing? Haiqing, how are you feeling now? Xiao Haiqing looked at the person in front of her in a daze. She vaguely saw the face she hated the most. Without saying anything, she opened her mouth and bit Jiang Rong's arm. Chapter 570. Jiang Rong didn't expect Xiao Haiqing to be so fierce when she was drunk. Her arm hurt, and she howled. Xiao Daoan was startled, and the direction of the car also twisted a little. Jiang Rong pulled her hand out of Xiao Haiqing's mouth. Hubby, look at Haiqing. She bit me. It's bleeding. Jiang Rong broke out in a cold sweat as if the flesh on her hand had been bitten off. Even the slightest touch of the bite made her feel a heart-wrenching pain. She felt so wronged. Under the strong push, Xiao Haiqing's entire body was smashed against the car window. She rubbed her head in a daze and stuttered. Jiang Rong, you vixen, return my father to me. Haiqing, stop it. Xiao Daoan was a little unhappy. Xiao Haiqing tilted her head and looked at the person in front. Who are you? You look just like my father, but you're not him. My father is very young. He's very impressive. You look like a bad person. Xiao Haiqing giggled. Xiao Daoan didn't feel good. He felt guilty. From the rearview mirror, he saw his daughter's eyes. They were so bright that they seemed to be able to speak. They hadn't changed much since she was young. Her gaze was proud and a little dazed, like a lost child. She was so fragile that she couldn't withstand a single blow. He hesitated a little. Hubby, why don't we not send her over? How about this? I'll ask her. Maybe she knows something about the wine recipe? Jiang Rong said. Xiao Daoan was touched. Okay, don't force her. Let's see how she answers. Jiang Rong nodded. Haiqing, I'm your Annie Jiang. Do you know what Jing Yunzhao's wine recipe is? Jiang Rong asked. The 3 words Annie Jiang ignited the explosive in Xiao Haiqing's mind. She glared at her and said, You old witch, what do you want to do to Yunzhao? I'll kill you. Then, without another word, he rushed towards Jiang Rong as if he had gone mad. Xiao Haiqing grabbed Jiang Rong's hair and tore it. Jiang Rong had already expected this outcome and was mentally prepared for it. She was beaten up pitifully by Xiao Haiqing, but she did not scream anymore. Instead, she covered her head and advised, Haiqing, don't be like this. We are doing this for your own good. As long as you tell us what the wine recipe is, your father will not bring you to meet that foreigner. However, at this moment, Xiao Haiqing's brain was no longer under her control, and she was still having a lot of fun. When Xiao Daoan saw his daughter being so shrewish, that bit of guilt in his heart instantly disappeared without a trace. He quickly stopped the car and went to the back seat to help free Jiang Rong from Xiao Haiqing's hands and put her in the front passenger seat. Xiao Haiqing's eyes were confused. She looked at her tall father and said, You are really a good-for-nothing. My father is dead. You are not him. Let me get off the car. I want to get off the car. Xiao Daoan was also annoyed. He hated it when others thought he was useless. He, Xiao Daoan, started from scratch. How much contempt had he received? It was not easy for him to get to where he was now. If it was not for this daughter of his who was dragging him down, the Xiao family would not be in such a situation now. They would have brought glory to their ancestors. Seeing Xiao Haiqing struggling to climb out of the car, Xiao Daoan's anger rushed to his head. Pa! He slapped her. In an instant, Xiao Haiqing was completely stunned. The anesthesia of the alcohol did not make her feel much pain. She only felt her heart aching. Chapter 571. Xiao Daoan closed the car door and continued driving. Xiao Haiqing curled up in a corner of the back seat and stared at Xiao Daoan silently like a fool. Jiang Rong glanced sideways, and when Xiao Daoan wasn't paying attention, the corners of her mouth curled up into a smile. This stepdaughter's temper was too fierce. She had long known what she was thinking and what she would do. Although she was not her biological daughter, she had raised her for more than 10 years. Her temper was also caused by her, so how could she not control it? Xiao Haiqing had a splitting headache and her mind was blank. The car drove for a long time before it finally stopped in front of a villa. "Hubby, are we really going to let Haiqing in?" Zhang Rong made a difficult expression. Xiao Daoan looked at the villa in front of him with a heavy heart. He thought for a while and said, "They said that they won't mistreat her. As long as she helps them get the recipe for Jing Yunjiao's wine, they'll get engaged a year later when she comes of age." Zhang Rong despised him in her heart. Her husband was such a person. He clearly knew that the other party was just saying it, but he still found an excuse for his daughter. Fortunately, she gave birth to a son and not a cheap one like Xiao Haiqing. However, she had to admit that Xiao Haiqing was quite good-looking. If she really listened and got the recipe for Jing Yunjiao's wine, then James probably wouldn't abandon her. Even if they couldn't get married, she would definitely be a woman by his side and her life wouldn't be too bad. Zhang Rong wasn't stupid enough to tell the truth. She waited quietly in the car and watched her husband personally send her daughter into the villa. After Xiao Daoan carried the drunk Xiao Haiqing in, James nodded at him in satisfaction and stuffed the check he had prepared into his hands. "Mr. Xiao, your daughter is really like an angel," James said in his broken language. Xiao Daoan laughed dryly. 5 million was nothing to a big company, but to him, it was a timely rain. James also said that if Haiqing was obedient, he would help him get in touch with some business in the future and ensure that his company wouldn't starve and would even develop better. The He family hadn't received any benefits from James yet. "Mr. James, my daughter isn't feeling well, so she'll be resting here for the time being. I'll pick her up tomorrow morning. Is that okay?" Xiao Daoan said politely. "Of course." James smiled. Xiao Daoan flattered a few times, then glanced at Xiao Haiqing, who was sitting on the sofa, and walked out with heavy steps. The night outside was getting darker, and a cool breeze was blowing. Xiao Daoan only felt a chill in his heart, and the figure of his previous wife appeared in his mind. His emotions were complicated and flustered. He sighed faintly and returned to the car. He wasn't in a hurry to leave, but stared at the villa and smoked an entire pack of cigarettes. Smoke rose in the car. Zhang Rong didn't urge him, but kept comforting him. "Honey, think about Miss He. She became so popular because of her relationship with James. Our Haiqing is prettier than her. Mr. James will definitely dote on her more. You found a good family for her. She'll thank you in the future." Her gentle voice kept numbing his nerves. Xiao Daoan's eyes were slightly red, and his hands were trembling. In the end, he went to the back seat and let Zhang Rong drive away. At this time, Jing Yunjiao had already arrived at the door of the Xiao family. When he saw the dark house, he secretly gritted his teeth. "Brother Bai, haven't you found out where James lives?" Jing Yunjiao called and asked. Chapter 572. Jing Yunjiao wasn't sure if Xiao Daoan brought the person to James's place, but she was certain that the person who could make Xiao Daoan do this was definitely someone from the banquet and someone who had already left. Among them, James and He Jiasi were the most suspicious. "I've already sent people to check. There's no one in James's houses, and they're not at the He family's house. James's car is currently parked in the parking lot of a shopping mall. There were too many other cars coming out of the parking lot at that time, and the names of the owners of the houses weren't suspicious either," Pak Yuan said. Jing Yunjiao's heart sank to the bottom. The less suspicious it was, the more nervous she was. After Pak Yuan said that, Jing Yunjiao was almost certain that James was behind it. If James was really innocent, then there was no need for him to change cars on the way and hide under the surveillance camera's noses. The reason he did this was definitely because he was afraid she would find him. Not only that, even Xiao Daoan used the same method to hide his location, but there were so many houses right now, and it was really difficult for her to determine Xiao Haiqing's location in such a short time. Jing Yunjiao was about to go crazy. After a moment of silence, she stared at the driver and said, "Go to the He family's house." James was someone who had just returned from abroad. Even if he had enough money, he definitely didn't have that many connections in the country. She had checked and found that before Xiao Daoan left the hotel, a waiter had passed him a note, and that waiter said the note was from a girl. Only He Jiasi. The driver turned around obediently and sped on the road at an extremely fast speed. In less than half an hour, Jing Yunjiao had already rushed into the He family's house. She practically kicked open the He family's high-security door with a single kick. The entire He family's alarm instantly went off nonstop. Immediately, a guard with a dog rushed over. At this time, the driver stopped at a safe place with Suchu and Ganjinchen and reported the matter to Pak Yuan word by word with a serious expression. Suchu and Ganjinchen were obviously frightened by Jing Yunzhao, especially Suchu. She couldn't help but think of the scene where Jing Yunzhao single-handedly rescued her. Although she didn't remember and didn't see it, she could imagine it now. Jing Yunzhao was still wearing a silver suit, which shone brightly under the moonlight. He wore a simple black coat to protect himself from the wind, and his eyes were dark and terrifying. Seeing the dogs charging forward bravely, he sprinkled some powder from his hand. In just an instant, the dogs became listless and stopped barking. It looked extremely strange, scaring the group of guards. He Jiasi. Jing Yunzhao was like a madman. He broke through the courtyard and directly rushed into the He family. As soon as he opened the door, he saw that the He family of 3 looked somewhat serious and nervous. He Jiasi wrinkled her brows and said, Jing Yunzhao, are you sick? You're trespassing. Where's Haiqing? Jing Yunzhao strode over and grabbed He Jiasi's collar as he asked coldly. Her speed was extremely fast, like a black shadow flashing by, giving people an illusion that it was unreal. What Haiqing? I don't know. He Jiasi's heart was trembling. Jing Yunzhao clenched his fist. He Jiasi, it seems like we have to settle old and new grudges. As soon as he finished speaking, He Jiasi was thrown out by Jing Yunzhao and smashed onto the ground. He Jiasi was in pain, and her whole body was a little dizzy. When the He family's parents saw this, they were even more shocked. Mr. He immediately wanted to rush out of the house, but he saw Jing Yunzhao kick the coffee table and block the door. Mrs. He rushed in front of He Jiasi and stared at Jing Yunzhao with hatred. Jing Yunzhao, if you're angry, take it out on me. If anything happens to my daughter, I'll definitely let you rot in prison and suffer for the rest of your life. Chapter 573. Jing Yunzhao coldly stared at this Mrs. He with an indifferent expression. Mrs. He, are you afraid that I'll forget you if you don't speak? When He Jiasi was sent abroad, wasn't it this Mrs. He who secretly messed with her? Until now, her name as Jing Yunzhao still left a deep impression on many people. Each and every one of them knew that she was an orphan who was abandoned by her parents and abused by her adoptive parents. Mrs. He shivered. Jing Yunzhao, what are you trying to do? Jing Yunzhao's eyes were like torches and her expression was cold. Don't worry, I'm not stupid enough to let you lose your lives. As she spoke, Jing Yunzhao grabbed Mrs. He's wrist and pulled her over. The silver needle in her hand shone with a faint cold light. In the blink of an eye, she pierced several of Mrs. He's acupoints. He Jiasi, who was watching from the side, was so frightened that she screamed. Mrs. He's body trembled. She could feel the silver needle piercing her body, but the strange thing was that she couldn't struggle. Jing Yunzhao's strength was extremely strong. When the needle pierced her body, the blood in her body seemed to stop flowing, causing her entire body to feel cold from head to toe. Jing Yunzhao, you lunatic, I'll definitely call the police to arrest you. Just wait to go to jail. He Jiasi opened her mouth and said, Don't worry, it'll be your turn soon. Jing Yunzhao opened her mouth and said, her movements were very fast. When she finished, Mrs. He was so nervous that she fell to the ground and trembled all over. She hurriedly lifted her clothes to check where the silver needle pierced her body, but there wasn't even a drop of blood. This kind of unknown fear made her unable to let go. Jing Yunzhao approached He Jiasi, looking like an extremely cold killer. He Jiasi's pupils contracted. Don't you want to know where Xiao Haiqing is? If you don't stab me, I'll tell you. Even if he told her now, it would be too late, right? He Jiasi's heartbeat quickened. She looked at Jing Yunzhao and stopped. Speak. Jing Yunzhao, I only sent a letter to Xiao Dao, that's all. You should know that I can't go against James's words. If it weren't for you not giving James face in front of everyone and causing him to be chased out of the banquet, he wouldn't have done that. Also, if you really want to blame someone, then blame Xiao Dao. Xiao Haiqing is his daughter, and he himself decided to give her to James. What can I do? He Jiasi hurriedly added. At this moment, She had no choice but to say it. If he said it out loud, Jing Yunjiao might go easy on him. She was simply a freak. The He family had more than a dozen dogs, and each of them was incomparably fierce. They had even eaten the breeder's arms. But when faced with Jing Yunjiao, they all stopped. It was simply too strange. The same went for the guards. There were so many of them, but they couldn't catch Jing Yunjiao. In this kind of situation, there was no other way except to tell the truth. Jiasi looked at Jing Yunjiao closely, afraid that he would recklessly stab her body in the next second. Although it wouldn't take her life, the slender silver needles made people's hearts tremble. She didn't want to become a person with needle holes all over her body. However, her resistance was useless. Jing Yunjiao pinched her chin and used the same method to stab her body. Medical skills could save people and also harm people. This technique was generally used to dredge the meridians, but it was more harmful to the body. For people with big problems with their meridians, this was a life-saving acupuncture technique. But for ordinary people, it was the opposite. Jing Yunjiao, I've already said it. But no, I never promised you. Jing Yunjiao's face was cold. If you lie to me, I will make you suffer 1,000 times more. Chapter 574. Jing Yunjiao didn't want to waste her time. After the injection, she walked out again, and there was almost no obstruction along the way. The effect of the powder hadn't worn off yet, so the dogs were still in a daze. Even after Jing Yunjiao left, they still didn't make a single sound. There were also some guards who tried to stop Jing Yunjiao, but they were all kicked far away. They didn't even have the strength to resist. Jing Yunjiao followed the address provided by Jiasi and rushed to the 100 Rich City. The place was a villa district. The price wasn't expensive, but it wasn't cheap either. It wasn't in the city. As for Zhua Haiyang, Jing Yunjiao had heard of him before, but she didn't care before. This was because Zhua Haiyang was in the same line as Yuling Wine Company. They both sold foreign wines with beautiful packaging, and the color of the wine was very pleasing. It was considered a type of fruit wine, but the juice content wasn't high. Other than that, this Haiyang food company already sold dried fruits, beverages, and the like. Their business wasn't very big, but they were quite famous. The reason he provided James with a place to stay was easy to understand. It was completely to compete with Yuling Wine Company, right? When Yuling Wine Company's products were pushed into the market, it did cause some damage to other industries. After all, the market was only so big. If someone had a good business and a good reputation, then there would be people who had to do business at a loss. If it was other wine companies, she could still understand. But this Zhua Haiyang, she couldn't forgive him. This Zhua Haiyang and her Yuling company were almost unrelated. They targeted different consumers, and the other party had many kinds of products. There wasn't much conflict at all. And now, he actually did such a thing for that investment. Jing Yunjiao secretly gritted her teeth. She was extremely worried. It was too slow. Gan Jinchen and Su Chu felt even more sad in their hearts. They originally thought that Xiao Daoan would take into account their father-daughter relationship and look forward to this matter. It was just that they thought too much, but they didn't expect the truth to be even harder to accept than they imagined. They didn't know what Xiao Haiqing was like now. She was very drunk. Thinking of her drunkenness, the three of them hated Xiao Daoan even more. If Xiao Daoan didn't always want to use Xiao Haiqing, she wouldn't have been so angry that she kept drinking to drown her sorrows, and she wouldn't have been taken advantage of. Time ticked by, and the scenery outside the window flashed by. The three of them looked extremely solemn. Soon, the car stopped. Just as he was about to get out of the car, he saw the door of the villa open, and Xiao Haiqing staggered out. The three of them were shocked. Xiao Haiqing's clothes were disheveled, her short hair was messy, and her black dress was a little out of place. Under the dim light of the night, the hickeys on her shoulders and neck could be vaguely seen. It was a frightening sight. She walked barefoot on the protruding rocks, but she didn't feel any pain at all. As soon as he stepped out of the door, he immediately knelt on the ground and vomited. The three of them were at a loss. They had never seen Xiao Haiqing like this before. She was like a broken doll, empty and desperate. The clear bloodstains on her hands were long and frightening. They didn't seem like they were caused by a man. They were afraid that she had scratched herself. She was swaying as if she was still drunk, but also very sober. The tears in her eyes dripped into the hearts of the three people in the night. Jing Yunjiao got out of the car with red eyes. He took off his jacket and walked over to put it on her. Xiao Haiqing froze. Jing Yunjiao could feel her trembling resistance. "Haiqing, it's me," Jing Yunjiao said. The house was very quiet, and no one came out. She wanted to ask and go in to see what was going on. She wanted to stand up for her and take revenge. However, when she saw Xiao Haiqing like this, she couldn't do anything. Chapter 575. When she heard Jing Yunjiao's voice, Xiao Haiqing's tense body instantly relaxed. After vomiting for a while, she stood up weakly and hugged Jing Yunjiao without saying a word. It was unclear if she was sober or drunk. "Yunjiao, take me home." Her voice was ethereal and extremely hoarse. Jing Yunjiao looked at the house, thought for a while, and nodded. He helped her step by step into the car. In the car, Xiao Haiqing did not say a word. She kept rubbing her body with her hands and frowned slightly, as if she felt that she was extremely dirty. Suchu sat beside her with red eyes and bit her lips. She did not need to think to know what Xiao Haiqing had gone through. Gan Jinxian, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, also had a gloomy expression. Something in his heart was shattered. Xiao Haiqing was very quiet, but her body was trembling slightly. Jing Yunjiao was full of self-blame. If she had not provoked Jiasi and James, they would not have shifted their target to Xiao Haiqing. This was not the first time. The people around her had always been hurt because of her. The last time it was Suchu. This time it was Haiqing. Jing Yunjiao's gaze turned cold. He pursed his lips and did not say a word. She had lived alone in her previous life. In this life, she was only suitable for one person. She did not want to hurt others and herself. "Yunjiao, I had a dream last night." Xiao Haiqing suddenly opened her mouth and said, "Yesterday was my mother's birthday. I went home, but he doesn't remember." He was cleaning the small garden outside the door with Jiang Rong and her son. It was a happy time. I was unhappy, so I picked the flowers that Jiang Rong had planted. My mother hates that smell. He was very angry and said that I went home just to make things difficult for him. I thought that it was my mother's birthday, so I didn't argue with him and stayed at home that night. I dreamt that he was rich and his business was getting better and better. There were many people around me that I didn't know. He asked Jiang Rong to introduce them to me. I couldn't escape. There were people everywhere. They surrounded me and tried to get close to me. I hated that feeling, but he asked people to watch over me and not let me leave. I dreamt that he told me that the old man loves you. He said that I have a bad temper and should find an old man who can tolerate me. Yunjiao, I was really scared in the dream. I couldn't even use the martial arts you taught me. I could only let myself be bullied by others. I shouted, but it was useless. My head was very heavy, as if I was drugged. I only woke up after a long time. I thought that I was really done for. Luckily, it was just a dream. But it turns out that reality and dreams are so similar. He sold me out just like in the dream. When she woke up this morning, although she was afraid that she had such a dream, she felt a little guilty when she saw her father. Because she thought that no matter how bad he was and how much he valued benefits, he would only beat and scold her. She thought too much of her father, so she had such a dream. It turned out that the dream wasn't just a dream. It was also an omen. The difference was that she didn't have the slightest ability to resist like she did in the dream. Xiao Haiqing's voice was soft, and Jing Yunjiao was in a daze. Ever since her rebirth, she had always been puzzled as to why Xiao Haiqing, who was like a cockroach, would be a famous black widow in the capital. She had married many times, and her reputation wasn't good. The reports even said that she was a beautiful woman from a wealthy family who didn't follow the rules and was bold and wanton. However, her expression gave her a sense of tenacity, which didn't match the reports. But now that she saw Xiao Haiqing's expression, she seemed to understand a little. A person wouldn't go to such extremes for no reason. It should be because of the influence of the surrounding environment, right? And the only person who could affect Xiao Haiqing in her previous life should be Xiao Daoan. Chapter 576. In this life, Xiao Daoan was able to give Xiao Haiqing away without hesitation. Then what about the previous life? She had been with Xiao Haiqing for a long time. She clearly knew that she wasn't the kind of person who relied on men. She shouldn't ask for marriage over and over again. Jing Yunzhao's mind was filled with random thoughts. After a few hours, he directly sent her back to the small house Xiao Haiqing usually lived in Huaning County. This was Xiao Haiqing's grandfather and grandmother's old house. It was also her mother's property. It had 3 rooms and 1 living room. It was very old, but it was very warm. There were also some old things in the house. They were stored neatly and very clean. There were photos hanging on the wall. They were all photos of Xiao Haiqing when she was young. In the photos, Xiao Haiqing was smiling very happily. She looked very young and obedient. She didn't look like the her in front of him. He made a hangover soup and let Xiao Haiqing drink it all. This night of danger had actually sobered her up a little. Now, it seemed that she had more or less recovered. Xiao Haiqing. Chu Chu looked at Xiao Haiqing nervously. She didn't know what to say. The marks on her body were a little shocking. After going through something like this, she definitely needed someone to comfort her. However, she felt that comfort was too weak and pale at this time. What was the use? I'm fine. Xiao Haiqing's voice was tired. I scared you guys. Chu, Jinchen. You two go back first. Yun Zhao will be enough to accompany me tonight. Haiqing, why don't we stay here too? I'll stay in the room next door. Cousin will stay in the living room. If you need anything, you can find him anytime. Su Chu suggested. At this time, the two of them were really worried. Although Xiao Haiqing always had the best relationship with Jing Yunzhao and liked to joke about her, they were friends who had been together for a long time. In her heart, Xiao Haiqing was just as important. Do whatever you want, Xiao Haiqing said. Gan Jinchen let out a sigh of relief. When he saw Xiao Haiqing walk out of the villa, he really wanted to rush in and beat the people inside. However, he knew in his heart that his ability to beat people wasn't even as good as Xiao Haiqing's. Also, Xiao Haiqing cared about her face. It was best if they kept quiet and let her have some peace. The cousins hesitated for a while, then hesitantly went to the living room. After the two of them left, Xiao Haiqing immediately. Jing Yunzhao's heart ached. Haiqing, I'm sorry. I've implicated you. If it wasn't for me, Yunzhao, it has to be. Xiao Haiqing's voice was hoarse as she continued. Really, I know that without you, it would still be the same. And if it wasn't for Jing Yunzhao, she wouldn't even have been able to hide. The dream last night was so realistic that it scared me. It was because his ambition was just as I thought. He was willing to abandon me and my mother for his career. He married Jiang Rong for his career. He was also willing to give me away for his career. As long as I can give him benefits, he is now a homeless dog. When he brought me in, although I was in a daze, I remembered a number, 5 million. Yunzhao, he did it for 5 million. My, Xiao Haiqing's innocence is only worth 5 million in his eyes. No, maybe it's not even worth 5 million. Xiao Haiqing's eyes were bloodshot. Her hands clutched the blanket tightly. The bloodstains on her arms were a shocking sight. Haiqing, we can deal with him. We can make him bankrupt and lose everything. We can make him suffer for the rest of his life. Jing Yunzhao said, his heart aching. No. Yunzhao, this is not enough. Chapter 577. Xiao Haiqing's eyes were filled with hatred. I hope that he will live a long life with Jiang Rong. I hope that his company will continue to drag on and be half dead. I want him to be filled with ambition, but never be able to get what he wants. I want him to see me become stronger than him step by step and climb over his head step by step. I want him to never be able to touch me. Yunzhao, he is my father. I don't want him to die. I want him to live, but it is worse than death, Xiao Haiqing said word by word. Yunzhao, don't help me. You can help me resolve my hatred, but you can't resolve the knot in my heart. She felt as if there was a knot in her heart. It was stuck inside and couldn't be untangled. It was suffocating and uncomfortable. Even if her father had nothing and Jiang Rong was half dead, her knot would always be there. That kind of torture couldn't be resolved in a short time. Some people were destined to be entangled for 10 or 20 years to vent their hatred. Now that they were dead, it was over. Who could she vent her anger on for the rest of her life? Jing Yunzhao was silent. She had never felt anything like this before. She blamed the Chao family, but they had never treated her well since she was young. She had no respect or love for them. However, Xiao Haiqing remembered the good times they had as a family. She had received the great fatherly love from Xiao Daoan, but it was taken away again. That kind of hatred born from love was different from hers. "Whatever you say," Jing Yunjiao said quietly. "Haiqing, how is James?" Jing Yunjiao asked again. If he was alive, there were ways to deal with him. If he was dead, she wasn't afraid. Although it was troublesome, she could afford the best lawyer. However, she had to know the situation first. I think I broke his legs. I can't remember. Anyway, he should have fainted." Xiao Haiqing rubbed her head. She couldn't remember the occasional scene. She only knew that her head was very heavy at that time. Her mind was only thinking about the 5 million. She was a little dazed. There was someone on top of her. The smell made her feel disgusted. He wanted to tear off her clothes. Then, she tried to resist, but the other party's actions were much rougher. She used all her strength to kick him away, but she was afraid that she would faint, so she forced herself to pinch her arm. After feeling the pain, she felt much better. Later on, Xiao Haiqing tried hard to recall. She remembered that Jing Yunjiao had taught her the acupuncture points that could temporarily paralyze the body. After the man could no longer move, she seemed to have gone crazy. She found a stick in the room and kept hitting his legs. She couldn't remember how many times she had smashed the door. She was afraid that the man would chase after her when she tried to escape. She recalled the dream she had yesterday and was afraid that the man would be the same as in her dream. No matter how hard she tried, she wouldn't be able to escape. Therefore, she used a lot of strength. Oh right, there seemed to be a camera in the house. She smashed it too. Xiao Haiqing hugged her arms tightly. "Yunjiao, you'd better not drink in the future." Jing Yunjiao was stunned. "Why?" he asked. "If you drink, you should be scarier than me, right?" Xiao Haiqing said faintly. Alcohol was really a burden. Fortunately, she had a high alcohol tolerance. Although she was drunk, she still had a trace of consciousness. If she was drunk like a dead pig, she would probably despise herself for the rest of her life. Moreover, at the moment when she hit, all her thoughts were in a mess. At that moment, she felt as if she had gone crazy. She only wanted to make that man unable to stand up and catch up with her. She was impulsive and confused, like a beast without a sense of self. Thinking back to that feeling, it was too scary. Chapter 578. Jing Yunjiao heaved a sigh of relief. She was wobbly, but her thoughts were clear. It seemed like she had recovered a lot. "Haiqing, rest well? I'll stay here with you tonight." Jing Yunjiao comforted her. The room gave off a warm and old-fashioned atmosphere that made people feel more relaxed. Xiao Haiqing nodded and lay on the bed. Her head felt as if it weighed 1,000 pounds. It was very dull. Although she was extremely sleepy, when she closed her eyes, her mind was filled with the scene that had just happened and the dream from last night. It was as if they were connected together, making her unable to fall asleep. Her eyes were tightly shut, but her brows didn't relax for even a moment. Jing Yunjiao sat by the bed and found some medicinal powder to clean her wound. The wound was long and thin, and the claw print was very frightening. There were even remnants of blood under the fingernails on the other hand, looking very frightening. Jing Yunjiao cleaned it up bit by bit, and a trace of sadness flashed across his eyes. Xiao Haiqing's forehead was covered in sweat. Even in her sleep, her fists were tightly clenched. She was probably having a nightmare. Jing Yunjiao took out a few more silver needles and inserted them into her wound to calm her mind and help her sleep. After her breathing stabilized, Jing Yunjiao asked Pak Yuan about the situation in Serene City. Although she broke into the He family's house and Xiao Haiqing seemed to have caused serious injuries to James, the two families didn't call the police. However, it was understandable. Once they called the police would investigate carefully. When the time came, they would naturally find out that He Jiasi and James had colluded to make a request to Xiao Daoan. If this spread out, it wouldn't be good for the He family's and James's reputation. Moreover, Xiao Haiqing was drunk at the time, and she was ruthless because she resisted. He Jiasi and James were very clear about this. However, the He family's mother and daughter, as well as James, were sent to the hospital. The specific situation wasn't clear for now. Jing Yunjiao wasn't in a hurry to ask and stayed in the room for the night. The next day, before dawn, the three of them were woken up by a knock on the door. When they opened the door, they saw Xiao Daoan's travel-worn appearance. He was obviously stunned when he saw the three of them, and a trace of awkwardness flashed across his face. "Where's Haiqing?" Xiao Daoan looked into the room and asked. Xiao Daoan looked a little disheveled. His hair was messy, and his suit was a little wrinkled. He reeked of smoke, and he probably hadn't cleaned his stubble this morning. He looked like a middle-aged man in dire straits. Jing Yunjiao glanced at him and remembered what Xiao Haiqing had said last night. She hoped that this father of hers would live well. In fact, she just wanted to use her own way to take revenge, right? Since that was the case, she would not get involved. However, that did not mean that she would serve Xiao Daoan nicely when she saw him. "May I ask why Mr. Xiao is here?" Jing Yunjiao asked, even though he already knew the answer. His expression was cold and sarcastic. Xiao Daoan frowned. Miss Jing, how is Haiqing now? Why didn't you call her last night to ask how she was doing? Running over here so early in the morning, I think you don't have good intentions." Su Chu immediately said angrily. She had never seen such a shameless father. For the sake of business, he gave his daughter away, yet he still pretended that he cared about her. It was simply trying to pretend to be chaste after being a Mr. Xiao, you know better than anyone what your daughter went through last night. I hope you can scram far away now and not disturb her rest, Jing Yunjiao said coldly. Last night, Xiao Haiqing slept very late and had nightmares for a long time. She had to perform acupuncture on her several times before she could sleep peacefully. Coupled with the effects of alcohol, she would sleep until the sun was high in the sky. Right now, it was only dawn. Chapter 579. Xiao Daoan's expression was ugly. He looked at Jing Yunjiao helplessly and pleadingly. Miss Jing, you're Haiqing's classmate. You should know what she did last night, right? Mr. James is hospitalized. The bones in his legs are completely shattered. No matter how good medicine is, it won't be able to recover. Haiqing did it. Xiao Daoan was trembling with anger. I really don't know what sin I committed to give birth to such a daughter. I know I let her down and sent her to the hospital yesterday, but no matter how big the grudge is, she can't do such a thing, right? You didn't see it. Mr. James's legs are a bloody mess. It's so painful. Xiao Daoan's heart trembled. He couldn't believe that his daughter would do such a thing. He received a call from Miss He in the middle of the night and found out that Miss He and Mr. James were hospitalized. He hurried over to take a look. Although Miss He and Mrs. He were shocked, they didn't have any physical problems. Mr. James, on the other hand, was in a terrible state. He would probably have to rely on a wheelchair for the rest of his life and would never be able to stand up again. It didn't matter how Mr. James was, but the problem was that his daughter did it. It was already a great blessing that the other party didn't call the police. If his daughter didn't apologize now, would he still have the rest of his life? Who knew when Mr. James would take revenge on him and ruin his life? Mr. Xiao, you only know how to blame Haiqing, but this is actually your own fault, right? You sold your own daughter for 5 million. You're really something. I don't care how Mr. James is now, and I don't care about your future. I only know that Haiqing doesn't want to see you. If you don't leave, don't blame me for using violence, Jing Yunjiao said. She knows? Xiao Daoan was shocked. Haiqing was clearly sleeping soundly on the sofa when he received the $5 million. Jiang Rong saw her husband in a daze and quickly shouted, Haiqing, are you inside? Come out and help us. Okay? If you don't help, your father will really. Jing Yunjiao kicked him out. Jiang Rong clutched her stomach and struggled. Xiao Daoan was so scared that his face turned pale. Jing Yunjiao, this has nothing to do with you. I'm disciplining my own daughter, Xiao Daoan hurriedly said. However, before he could finish, Xiao Haiqing appeared behind Jing Yunjiao and stared at her father. Xiao Daoan jumped in fright. His daughter's eyes were bloodshot, her hair was messy, and there were some marks on her body. She looked like a ghost that had crawled out from hell, looking extremely terrifying. Dad, you're here. Xiao Haiqing's hoarse voice traveled over, causing Xiao Daoan to shudder violently. His voice was bone-chilling, causing the hearts of those who heard it to turn cold. It was clearly the same tone as before, but he felt like something had changed. Xiao Daoan's old face tensed up. Hai Qing, Dad knows he's wrong, but you don't know that I was forced to do this. Ever since the Hong family fell, your father has been like a rat crossing the street. My business has plummeted, and no one is willing to help me. If this continues, the company will be finished. Hai Qing, I know it's useless for me to say anything now, but do you think that as a father, my heart doesn't ache? I didn't sleep last night and stayed outside the house for a long time. I wanted to go in and take you away, but I can't afford to offend the He family and Mr. James. Also, if you and Jing Yunjiao hadn't offended them, I wouldn't have been used by them. Chapter 580. Xiao Daoan talked nonstop. At first, he looked like he sincerely wanted to admit his mistake, but the more he spoke, the more excuses he used. It was as if everything was Xiao Haiqing's own shamelessness. Jing Yunjiao and the other two couldn't bear to listen anymore. They wanted to stop him, but Xiao Haiqing stopped them. She just looked at him and memorized every word. Dad, what do you need me to do now? Xiao Haiqing's voice was calm. Xiao Daoan was suddenly stunned. He thought his daughter would argue with him and question him righteously, but she didn't. She just calmly asked him what he wanted to do. Her expression made him at a loss for what to do. After being stunned for a while, he said awkwardly, Mr. James didn't call the police. I'll take you to meet him now. Hopefully, we can salvage the situation. If you don't go, then, if James blamed him, the He family would put pressure on him. When the business couldn't go on and was about to go bankrupt, he would sell this house. This house was his daughter's lifeline. Everything here was. He knew this very well. However, before he could finish his threat, Xiao Haiqing said, Okay, let's go. Haiqing. Jing Yunjiao looked at her in surprise. Haiqing, why do we have to go? It'd be better if that James died. Su Chu was practically burning with rage. Jing Yunjiao looked at her. Seeing her emotionless eyes, a trace of heartache flashed through his eyes. After calling her that, he didn't say anything to stop her. Whatever she wanted to do, he would let her do it to her heart's content. Xiao Daoan didn't expect his daughter to agree so easily. She even said those words of advice. He heard Xiao Haiqing say again, I want to change my clothes. You guys wait at the door. Okay. Then hurry up, Xiao Daoan hurriedly said. After saying that, Xiao Haiqing closed the door with a bang, almost hitting Xiao Daoan's nose. Xiao Daoan was furious, but when he thought of his daughter's cooperation, he sighed in relief. Looking at his daughter, last night, James must have. Although she was his daughter, he didn't want to think that way. Generally speaking, once a man conquered a woman's body, his heart would be more or less the same. Last night's situation should have happened because Haiqing was drunk. He just didn't know if Mr. James would forgive Haiqing later. What should he do? Xiao Daoan's hair was about to turn white. He knew very well that both of Haiqing's legs would be crippled. James would not be appeased unless Haiqing suffered even more. Xiao Daoan waited outside and smoked another cigarette. Hubby, why is Haiqing suddenly so sensible? Don't tell me he's trying to escape. Zhang Rong said suspiciously. Let's wait and see. If he doesn't come out in a few minutes, I'll go get him, Xiao Daoan said. Zhang Rui too. At this time, Xiao Haiqing took off yesterday's dirty clothes and went into the bathroom to take a simple shower. She changed into a clean red dress. Haiqing, you really want to go? What if they call them to the police? Won't the police arrest you? Su Chu was worried. After all, it was a serious injury. How could the other party let it go so easily? If he went over at this time, wouldn't he be hitting the muzzle of the other party's gun? He had to bear the other party's anger, and it was clearly the other party's fault. This was too sullen. Clearly, if they call the police, he will be charged with attempted rape. Xiao Haiqing changed her clothes and said calmly, How hard did I hit him last night? I don't even remember it myself. I have to go and deepen my memory. Chapter 581. After Xiao Haiqing finished speaking, Su Chu pursed her lips. She was like a little headless fly that was anxious behind her. She was also a little timid and did not know how to open her mouth. She felt that Xiao Haiqing looked a little scary at this moment. Could it be that she felt that she had been too lenient on her and wanted to fight again? She did not have the same courage as Xiao Haiqing. If it were her, after experiencing such a thing, she would probably hide in the house for 10 days to half a month and not go out to see anyone. She might even lose the courage to continue living. How would she dare to deepen her memory? Moreover, that kind of memory was extremely painful to recall, not to mention seeing the perpetrator with her own eyes. Su Chu looked at Xiao Haiqing anxiously. She felt that compared to her and Jing Yunjiao, she was simply too weak. When something happened, she would only cry and be anxious. She could be scared to death. She would usually say brave words, but it was useless. Haiqing, don't go, okay? That James is so bad. If you go, your mood will definitely be worse, Su Chu said carefully. Gan Jinchen was a boy, and he did not know how to comfort her when faced with such a situation. However, he agreed with Su Chu. After all, Xiao Haiqing was just a girl. There was no need to pretend to be so strong. Some things should be avoided and let go. Everything could start over. One day, the dark clouds would be lifted and the sun would be revealed. Xiao Haiqing turned her head and looked at Su Chu. She pinched Su Chu's cheek. Among the few of them, Su Chu was probably the most relaxed and carefree one, right? Jing Yunjiao was independent and had to face many things. Tang Zihua was the crown prince of the Tang family. Although he was dressed in golden clothes, he had been ill for more than 10 years. In the past, he was in a half-dead state. Moreover, he had to face all kinds of schemes in the Tang family, so he had been hiding in Huaning County and refused to go back. In contrast, Gan Jinchen was much more relaxed, but after all, he was a boy. Grandpa Gan was strict with him and hoped that he could inherit his mantle in the future. Su Chu, on the other hand, had harmonious relatives and happy parents. The whole person was like wrapped in honey. There were a lot of friends around her. She had good grades and a good reputation. She lived an easy life, which was enviable to the extreme. Therefore, her point of view on things was often different from hers and Jing Yunjiao's. She and Jing Yunjiao were used to living alone. More or less have a kind of ruthlessness, which Su Chu did not have. But I hope she never will. You're hurting me. Su Chu rubbed her face innocently. She didn't dare to say anything now. Haiqing was really scary. Her IQ had always been on a completely different level from her cousins. So, no. What if James bullies you? I know I'm useless, but at least I'm a living person. I should be able to increase your power, right? Su Chu said anxiously. She felt that Xiao Haiqing and Jing Yunjiao were both strange. This morning, Jing Yunjiao didn't look at her as intimately as before. Whether it was her or her cousin, he seemed to be deliberately avoiding her. Their relationship was getting better and better. Suddenly, they became distant. She really couldn't accept it. Jinchen, you should take Chu Chu back. She didn't come home last night. Grandpa Gan and Uncle Su should be worried. Jing Yunjiao also said. Hearing this, Su Chu stood there in a daze. Chapter 582. Jing Yunjiao's mouth showed a trace of bitterness and said, Chu Chu, that kind of occasion really doesn't suit you. Su Chu looked at her and Xiao Haiqing with disappointment and slightly lowered her head without saying a word. Gan Jinchen sighed in his heart. All right, you guys pay attention to your safety. If there's anything, you have to tell us. Jing Yunjiao nodded, opened the door, and walked out with Xiao Haiqing. When he opened the door, he saw Xiao Daoan standing a step away from the door, as if he was hesitating whether to push the door open or not. Xiao Haiqing glanced at him, as if he didn't see him. Let's go? Xiao Haiqing's voice was slightly raised. Xiao Haiqing's red dress was paired with a short white jacket, covering all the marks on her body. When Xiao Daoan heard this, he hurriedly went to open the car door, looking like a dog's leg. Jing Yunjiao couldn't help but sigh. This person's change was really big. When she first saw Xiao Daoan, he still had the pride of an ambitious person. His every move was mature and steady, like a successful person. However, in just a few months, he had transformed from a successful person to a loser with no confidence. His flattery had been cultivated to the point of perfection. Su Chu watched the two get in the car and leave, and curled her lips. Cousin, am I really useless? Suchu muttered. She would only cause trouble. When she encountered those things, she couldn't even help. She didn't have the strength, and she didn't have the ability. I still think I'm quite useless. It was awkward for the whole night. Gan Jinshin sighed and was speechless. Before, he and Tang Zihua were still targeting young Master Li. Now, it seemed that young Master Li was much stronger than the two of them. At the very least, he would be able to protect the three little girls. Unlike now, he could do nothing but watch from the side. But don't think too much about it. From what I see, Yun Zhao's shock this time is no less than Haiqing's. He probably feels that he has implicated his friends. Gan Jinshin continued, "You don't know, but the last time you were kidnapped, she looked a little flustered when she saw Grandpa. We've known her for so long, and even when she was cornered by a group of people, she didn't show the slightest bit of fear. But at that time, her eyes were extremely weak, as if she was afraid that Grandpa would blame her and hate her because of you. Was it because they were treating them as family? Was that why they were behaving like this?" Suchu raised her head. "Then what should we do?" Jing Yunjiao obviously wanted to keep a distance from her. The incident that time was indeed quite dangerous, but I think it was actually quite exciting. Suchu scratched her head and said, "Cousin, don't tell me you're scared. I really don't think it's a big deal. There will be trouble, but Cousin isn't the only one who brings danger to us. Take the previous incident, for example. That Zhongqing is our relative. If I didn't drag Cousin to the clinic, they wouldn't have run into each other again. Also, the conflict with Zhongjia's brother was also because of me. How can she think that she was the only one who caused it?" Gan Jinshin rolled his eyes. "What's the use of telling me this? Go and explain it to her yourself." He still felt that he was quite innocent. He was a guy. Jing Yunjiao actually thought that he was so timid that he would abandon his friends because of an unknown, or even something that might not happen. Was he that unloyal? Chapter 583. Gan Jinshin and Suchu were disappointed. Seeing that Xiao Haiqing and Jing Yunjiao had left, they didn't stay any longer. They locked the door and went home. However, they couldn't sit still at home. At this time, Jing Yunjiao and Xiao Haiqing were already on the road. Xiao Daoan drove the car. The two of them sat in the back while Zhang Rong sat in the front passenger seat. Zhang Rong wasn't even 30 years old yet. Her skin was still young and delicate. She wore a light green dress today. Her long hair was tied up, and her brows were gentle. She looked virtuous and gentle. She looked at Xiao Haiqing as if she wanted to say something. Just now at the door, Zhang Rong was kicked by Jing Yunjiao. That kick wasn't light, but now Zhang Rong seemed to be fine. She could bear with it. "Haiqing, you have to suffer a little. Your father has been working hard for you all these years. Now that he needs your help, you can't be a burden to him. Everything that happened in the past was my fault. As long as you help your father this time, I promise you that I will do whatever you say. Even if you want all of the Xiao family's assets in the future, Junjun and I will give it to you. We don't want a single cent." Zhang Rong said sincerely. "Rong, it's not as serious as you say. No one will snatch Junjun's things from him. I've done so much for this family, and now I'm just asking her to apologize. What's there to be aggrieved about?" Xiao Daoan braced himself and said. The most successful thing in his life was marrying Zhang Rong and giving birth to Xiao Jun. Zhang Rong was much younger than him and came from a good family. Her family saved him a lot of trouble. "That's true, but hubby, I feel that I've let Haiqing down. Yesterday," Zhang Rong's lips trembled. She felt wronged and said, That damn James. Why did he have to bully our Haiqing? There were so many people at the banquet, but he had to go against our Haiqing. When I think of the grievances Haiqing suffered, I feel guilty." After Zhang Rong finished speaking, Xiao Daoan's eyes flashed. Yes, there were so many people, but he had to go against his daughter. In terms of looks, although his daughter was not bad, she was too sharp. Wasn't that little classmate named Suchu more pleasant? In terms of age, if James liked young girls, then the girl who called Jing Yunjiao's sister looked even younger and more immature. He just had to find Xiao Haiqing, who had the worst temper. Why? Xiao Daoan glanced at his daughter through the mirror. His daughter's appearance was naturally outstanding. In the past, he had always felt that her dressing was not well behaved enough. But now that he took a closer look, although she had short hair, her appearance was indescribably gorgeous. It was just that she had not yet grown. If she were to dress up a little in a few years, she would definitely have an enchanting and charming appearance. At that time, his daughter was standing beside Jing Yunjiao and was very eye-catching. Could it be that she was deliberately trying to attract James' attention? Haiqing had been unruly since she was young. She had been playing around with a bunch of boys in junior high. At that time, he had thought that even if his daughter came home pregnant, he would not be surprised at all, because she had always been that uncaring. Once this thought appeared, it could not be stopped. The more Xiao Daoan looked at it, the more he felt that his daughter had done it on purpose. She had even forgotten who was the one who had provoked James and brought trouble upon himself. Xiao Haiqing did not seem to hear Jiang Rong's words. Her head was tilted on Jing Yunjiao's shoulder, and her gaze was fixed in front of her. She did not move, and no one knew what she was thinking. Haiqing, when you see James, you have to soften your attitude. Although Mr. James does not have any business in the country, he is an expert in investment. Offending him will not do us any good, Xiao Daoan reminded her again. Chapter 584. Xiao Haiqing moved her body. I understand. She was extremely obedient. Zhang Rong looked at her in surprise. Haiqing, don't make us worry. If you suddenly don't do as your father says, Auntie Jiang, you're right. My father is working very hard. I won't let his career go to waste. Don't worry, Xiao Haiqing said again. Zhang Rong was stunned. You was very polite, but for some reason, it made her shudder. When had Xiao Haiqing ever been so polite to her? Even when she had just married into the Xiao family, she was obedient, but there was resistance behind her back. She even became more and more at odds with her. But now, she was so obedient? Zhang Rong thought for a while and said, Haiqing, how should I say this? Actually, it's hard to explain the relationship between a man and a woman. You're an adult now. There's a saying that you should have heard. A day as husband and wife means endless devotion for the rest of your life. Now that the rice has already been cooked, even though our family isn't a traditional family, since it's already like this, we should accept our fate. Don't you think so? She looked at Xiao Haiqing tentatively. Xiao Haiqing's expressionless face slowly curved into a smile. Her voice was gentle. Annie Jiang, I understand. Jiang Rong's eyes were dazed for a moment. Xiao Haiqing was better off not smiling. She looked like a ghost, gloomy and sinister. Jing Yunjiao didn't ask further. She knew in her heart that Xiao Haiqing couldn't be telling the truth at this time. What was the use of tit for tat? In the past, they couldn't get along, but no matter how much they quarreled, the one who was at a disadvantage was Xiao Haiqing. Not only did she waste her breath, but she also had a stomach full of anger. Dad, a day as husband and wife means endless devotion for the rest of your life. Am I right? Xiao Haiqing suddenly changed the topic. Xiao Daoan's face tightened. Yes, so you just have to be obedient. No wonder Mom still misses Dad. She must be the person who loves you the most in the world, Xiao Haiqing said again. Xiao Daoan was absent-minded for a moment. His deceased wife was naturally a good person. She was docile and sensible. She took care of the housework for him so that he didn't have to worry about anything. She was never noisy and never lost her temper with him. She could endure hardships. However, some people did not have the luck to share their hardships. On the contrary, Zhang Rong was different. She brought good fortune to her husband. Zhang Rong bit her lips and laughed dryly, clenching her fists slightly. Sure enough, Xiao Haiqing did it on purpose. She insisted on mentioning the dead woman and telling her over and over again that she was just a stepmother who had remarried. What a terrible word. Every time she thought of it, she felt aggrieved. She wanted to argue with Xiao Haiqing, but the situation didn't allow her to do so. If they argued too much and Xiao Haiqing got angry again, it would be hard to explain to James. Although her docility made her uncomfortable, it was enough to bring benefits to the Xiao family. Thinking of this, Zhang Rong took a deep breath and revealed a faint smile. She looked at Xiao Haiqing with kindness. On this hot day, the cold wind in the car made people stand up with goosebumps. A few hours later, the four of them arrived in front of the biggest hospital in Ning City. Jing Yunjiao also had a deep impression of this hospital. The doctor who had pretended to be Mrs. He came from here. However, that doctor was exposed. Not only did he lose his job, but he was also scolded badly. James stayed in a private ward on the top floor. The elevator went directly. Once they entered the building, they saw 2 security guards guarding the door. Chapter 585. Xiao Daoan fawningly handed a cigarette to the 2 security guards and said politely, "Please tell James that my surname is Xiao, and I'm the father of the girl from last night." The other party glanced at him condescendingly, then turned and walked in. Within a few seconds, he walked out again and pushed Xiao Daoan in. James' legs were wrapped tightly, and Jiasi was sitting in front of the bed with a concerned expression. When she saw Jing Yuanzhao, she clearly showed some fear. James's white face twitched as he glared at Xiao Haiqing, full of anger. He raised his hand and threw the fruit Jiasi handed over. That fruit flew toward Xiao Haiqing's face. Jing Yunzhao reached out and caught it, then casually threw it at James' head. In the next moment, James spat out a string of words. His angry expression and ferocious actions directly expressed his current emotions. Jing Yunzhao didn't even need to listen carefully to know that he was cursing at someone. "Mr. James, please calm down. This is all our fault. I brought my daughter here to apologize to you," Xiao Daoan hurriedly said. "You trash, you're dead meat. We made a deal, but you actually couldn't control your own daughter, and now my legs are like this." James chattered on, his anger difficult to extinguish. Xiao Daoan broke out in cold sweat and hurriedly looked at Jiasi. Miss He, please persuade Mr. James that this was really an accident. She was too drunk, that's why she became like this. I can guarantee that she will be obedient in the future. No matter what request Mr. James makes, I will do my best to fulfill it. I only hope that you can forgive this mistake." "No, you idiot. I will never forgive you." Jiasi frowned and smoothed out James' anger. "James, it's already like this." James took a deep breath. "You guys go out first. I want to talk to her alone." When Jiasi heard that, she smiled and directly got up to walk out. When she walked in front of Jing Yunzhao, her expression clearly changed. Jing Yunzhao looked at Xiao Haiqing. Seeing that she didn't refuse, he also went out. "Jing Yunzhao, what did you do to us last night? Why can't I find anything?" Jiasi asked. She felt that Jing Yunzhao wouldn't simply give her a few needles for no reason. After all, the pain was very mild, and there wasn't a single drop of blood. But last night, she had someone check all over her body, but they didn't find any problems. She didn't know if it was because she was thinking too much, but she felt a little sore in her back today, but the doctor said she was fine. Jing Yunzhao glanced at her. "Miss He, do you think I'll tell you?" "Jing Yunzhao, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. You know martial arts, so I can't do anything to you. But don't forget." Jiasi pointed inside the ward and continued, "What happened to your good friend last night? If I can do the same thing once, I can do it a second time. What can you do? Beat me up like you did yesterday?" Today, her father had already asked someone to hire bodyguards. These bodyguards were different from those trained by companies. They were trained by martial arts sects, and some of them had genuine martial arts skills. Jing Yunzhao could forget about getting close to her, unless Jing Yunzhao killed her at this very moment. But was that even possible? Chapter 586. Jiasi's face was full of confidence, but Jing Yunzhao sneered. "I've already told you that I'm a doctor, but you never believed me. But it doesn't matter, you'll soon believe me. If you don't come and beg me within a week, then I, Jing Yunzhao, will change my surname to yours," Jing Yunzhao said. She looked inside the ward through the glass. James was lying in the room with an unspeakably ugly expression. Xiao Haiqing's back was facing her, so she couldn't see her expression. The building materials of this ward were special compared to other places. The glass was bulletproof, and once the door was closed, she couldn't hear anything inside, even with her excellent hearing. "I beg you? You're crazy." Jiasi snorted. She said she was a doctor? Then she said she was an immortal. But was that possible? She knew that Tang Zihua's health was indeed not good, but the Tang family had a specialized medical team, so there was no need to find a mediocre doctor outside. Even if there was a need to find one, there were plenty of famous doctors. Why did it have to be Jing Yunjiao? In the end, it was Jing Yunjiao who deliberately seduced Tang Zihua. If it wasn't for her, Tang Zihua wouldn't have spoken so coldly to her, and the Tang family wouldn't have barred her from entering. She would still be the most likely person to become the Tang family's granddaughter-in-law, and she would still be the daughter that her father paid the most attention to. She wouldn't be an abandoned child. And James doted on her a lot. To put it bluntly, he was her godfather, but in reality, he was just her bedmate. She even had to think about James in all aspects. This kind of identity made her feel humiliated, and the person in front of her was the source of all her tragedies. Jing Yunjiao looked at her coldly, revealing a mocking smile. She didn't have any other strong points, but her medical skills were good. The more she learned, the more she understood the medicinal herbs and acupuncture points. Coupled with the ancestors' golden needle secret technique, it was enough to make Jiasi feel pain all over her body without being able to find the cause. Seeing Jing Yunjiao's cold and confident eyes, Jiasi felt a little flustered, afraid that Jing Yunjiao would really do something to her. However, when he thought of Xiao Haiqing, he relaxed again. At this moment, James glared at Xiao Haiqing and said angrily, "I want the wine recipe." "Xiao Haiqing, I won't pursue the matter of the injury you've caused to my leg, but you have to get me all the recipes for Jade Spirit wines." "Mr. James, do you think your threat will work on me? I did hurt your leg, but don't forget what you did last night." Xiao Haiqing said expressionlessly. "Oomph. In the words of your Hua nation, you won't shed a tear until you see the coffin. I know you smashed my camera, but there are hidden camera positions everywhere in the house. Even if I let you go find them, you won't be able to clean them up. If you don't want to, then don't blame me for releasing your nude photos. I know that the people in your country are very particular about reputation." James continued. His leg was already broken. If he let Xiao Haiqing die, other than venting his anger, there was no other use. He was a businessman. No matter what, he had to protect his greatest interests. Jade Spirit Wine's recipe was definitely a priceless treasure. He must get it. Xiao Haiqing clenched her fists. A trace of killing intent flashed through her eyes. There was actually more than one camera? Although she was drunk at that time, she still tried her best to find it, but she didn't find it. No wonder he was so fearless. Chapter 587. Xiao Haiqing's eyes flickered. "I have to take a look first. Who knows if you're lying to me?" "Okay, no problem. I've already asked someone to print some of them and send them over. You can definitely admire them." James took out a folder from the drawer and handed it over. Xiao Haiqing took out the things inside and looked at them with a cold expression. These photos were very clear, from when she entered the villa to when she was pinned down by James and exposed to the world. Even if she knew that she had not reached the last step, no one would believe that she was clean just by looking at the photos. Moreover, the other party was very smart. Every photo was taken from the best angle. Some of them looked like she was smiling and accepting them. It was enough to ruin her life. "How about it? Are you willing to make a deal with me now?" James asked again. Xiao Haiqing threw the things on his bed. "I'll think about it. I advise you not to take too long. My patience is limited. If you piss me off, I'll immediately post your photos on the major networks. Then you'll be completely finished." James immediately said. Xiao Haiqing looked at the folder with a complicated expression. Her smile was bleak and determined. "Mr. James, don't you even have this little bit of patience?" Xiao Haiqing asked. "Patience?" James glared at Xiao Haiqing angrily. He was a man with crippled legs. Where did his patience come from for this woman? "By the way, Mr. James, I'm really sorry for breaking your legs. To make up for it, how about I give you a gift?" Xiao Haiqing suddenly smiled. James gritted his teeth. "Don't try to play tricks." "Why would I? I'm very sincere. I know that you came to me only because of my relationship with Jing Yunjiao, and my father's too cowardly. To be honest, I already told my father that if he forced me, I would definitely kill you, but he didn't believe me. Rather than saying that this situation was caused by me, it's better to say that it was him," Xiao Haiqing said calmly. "I don't understand what you mean." You don't need to understand. Xiao Haiqing sneered. If I do as you say, then you'll accept my gift, right? Since it's a deal, then it should be fair, right? Both of us suffered losses before. If we're on the same boat, then we should have a common enemy, right? James was stunned. He did not understand Xiao Haiqing's words, but after thinking about it, he could roughly understand part of it. As long as you do as I say, we can turn from enemies to friends, James said again. When he got what he wanted, he would torture this despicable father and his daughter. Xiao Haiqing smiled knowingly. Then you wait. Who knows, you might really get some good news from me. After she finished speaking, she turned and left. When Xiao Daoan saw the door open, he immediately rushed over. Haiqing, how was it? We had a good chat. My dear Mr. James, don't you think so? Xiao Haiqing's eyes were bright, and she smiled. Jing Yunjiao felt that her smile was a little evil. James' face stiffened, and he said, I'm a magnanimous person. I won't pursue the evil deeds of you and your daughter for the time being. Xiao Daoan heaved a sigh of relief. He was so worried. But when he looked at Xiao Haiqing, he was a little surprised. He brought his daughter over just to test the waters. After all, the other party had broken 2 legs. That was a huge matter for a lifetime. How could anyone forgive that easily? Moreover, his daughter had a bad temper. Chapter 588. Xiao Daoan relaxed a little. He felt that he knew his daughter too little in the past. Now, it seemed that his daughter was so obedient because she was interested in James. Otherwise, how could she be mistaken? Mr. James, thank you so much. How about this? I'll pay for the treatment. I'll find a way to contact the best doctor for you. You'll definitely be cured. Xiao Daoan said again. James cursed in his heart. This Xiao Daoan's money was cheated from him. At this time, Jing Yunjiao was a little surprised. After thinking about it, he didn't suspect Xiao Haiqing. The only reason James was willing to be on good terms with the Xiao family was because of benefits, and there were only 2 benefits he could get from Xiao Haiqing. It was the Yuling wine industry's wine recipe or her. However, although the things they were talking about should be related to her, she believed that Xiao Haiqing wouldn't really scheme against her. It was useless to ask now. At this moment, Xiao Daoan's biggest worry was settled. Xiao Daoan looked at his daughter a little more pleasing to the eye. After coming out of the hospital, he directly brought the 2 of them to an expensive Western restaurant and ordered a table full of delicious food. Xiao Haiqing still went along with him, as if she had let go of yesterday's matter. It was as if she was a different person. Haiqing, you really didn't disappoint Dad. Here's a toast to you. Xiao Daoan said with a smile. Xiao Haiqing clinked glasses with him. She stared at Jiang Rong and said to Jing Yunjiao, Yunjiao, look at my Annie Jiang. She's really beautiful, gentle, virtuous, and has a standard Asian face. Even Mr. James couldn't help but praise her a little more. Jing Yunjiao also smiled. It's not just Mr. James. Previously, CEO Bai told me that the woman behind Uncle Xiao is really a pity. She's so beautiful and young. Even if she finds a big shot in a corporation, she's more than enough. The 2 of them had been together for so long. Even if they didn't have telepathy, they understood each other. Some words didn't need to be understood to know what the other party meant. Xiao Haiqing was a vengeful person. When faced with someone who hated her to the extreme, she would not praise them for no reason. Since she wanted to praise them, then she would help her. She would just add fuel to the fire. It was just a little effort of talking. Xiao Haiqing's compliments were very considerate, while Jing Yunjiao praised one and belittled another. If it was Xiao Haiqing, Xiao Daoan could still reprimand her, but he couldn't say anything about Jing Yunjiao. Has CEO Bai mentioned our own before? Xiao Daoan asked casually, feeling awkward. That's right. Although we call her Annie Jiang isn't that old, right? She's much younger than Mr. Bai. If Annie Jiang wasn't married, I think Mr. Bai would have made a move on her. Jing Yunjiao said with certainty. Xiao Daoan turned to look at his wife. She was indeed very young. Although she had given birth to a child, her waist was still very slender, and not a single wrinkle could be seen on her face. Compared to those gorgeously dressed women these days, she looked like a white mist, so gentle that it made people feel comfortable. Jiang Rong panicked. How could these two people praise her for no reason? Aya, hubby, do you really believe what they said? I'm already an old woman. People like CEO Bai and Mr. James have many women around them. They have high standards. My appearance is nothing at all. Jiang Rong quickly said. Annie Jiang, you're belittling yourself. Women like you are the most considerate. Chapter 589. Xiao Haiqing pursed her lips and smiled. Her smile dimmed, and her expression was complicated. Annie Jiang, it was my fault for targeting you in the past. But at that time, I also thought that you were too beautiful. I was afraid that my father would forget about my mother, so I purposely went against you. Jiang Rong was a little anxious. She didn't know what to say about Xiao Haiqing. Dad, you have good taste. Fortunately, I got together with Annie Jiang early on. Otherwise, I'm afraid my brother wouldn't exist now, Xiao Haiqing said to herself, then leaned back and started cutting the steak in front of her. Jing Yunzhao also smiled. Uncle Xiao is so lucky. Xiao Daoan was a male chauvinist and had some prejudice against women. For example, towards Xiao Haiqing, he had always felt that since she was a girl, she should act like a girl. She should be obedient, sensible, and virtuous. It would be best if she could be like those women in ancient times, obedient and virtuous. His attitude towards his wife wasn't much better. Xiao Haiqing's mother had always been a housewife after she passed away. Xiao Daoan worked outside and had to enjoy the warmth of his wife and daughter when he returned home. Ever since Jiang Rong married him, she had also stayed at home wholeheartedly. Thinking back to the first time she went to the Xiao family, Xiao Daoan was like an emperor, never helping with the housework. He seemed gentle to his own woman, but in reality, he was controlling. Now that she and Xiao Haiqing suddenly praised Jiang Rong, although it made him proud at the same time, it also made him feel that she didn't follow the rules of a wife. Sure enough, Xiao Daoan looked at Jiang Rong and couldn't help but frown. You've already given birth, so why are you still wearing such a bright dress? It doesn't suit you. Go back and change the color, Xiao Daoan said. Jiang Rong's face stiffened. Her dress was bright? It was just light green. It couldn't be any simpler. Okay, Jiang Rong quickly agreed. She understood her husband. She could only go along with his wishes. If she talked back to him, it would make him even more unhappy. All right, Haiqing, go to the hospital more often these days. James needs someone to take care of him at this time, Xiao Daoan said. Xiao Haiqing's lips curled into a mocking smile. No problem, Dad. After the four finished their meal, they went their separate ways. Jing Yunzhao and Xiao Haiqing stayed in the hotel, and the environment wasn't bad. Yunzhao, your wine recipe. After closing the door, Xiao Haiqing thought, then said, Can you brew a similar wine? James's request? Jing Yunzhao asked. That's right, but I don't want him to take advantage of me. That's why I want to ask you if you can change the wine recipe and make a wine that tastes similar but has different effects, Xiao Haiqing replied. And she didn't tell him that. If it was something important enough to threaten her, the other party would definitely hide it well. In this aspect, it was impossible for Jing Yunzhao to help her. And if Jing Yunzhao knew that the other party had a fake wine recipe in their hands, for her sake, there was a high possibility that she would take out the real one to exchange. After all, a fake wine recipe would eventually be exposed. But she didn't want the money, even if it was enough to ruin her life. She didn't think too much about her reputation in the future. With her father around, reputation was something that could be discarded at any time. What she wanted now was for the people who harmed her to never be able to recover. But the premise was that Jing Yunzhao could come up with something to replace the real wine recipe. You mean a similar wine recipe that can cause discomfort after drinking it? Jing Yunzhao asked, raising his eyebrows. That's right. Xiao Haiqing was very direct. Chapter 590. Jing Yunzhao slightly frowned. If she was James, she would definitely choose to buy the Ocean Food Company after getting the wine recipe and produce the wine with all her strength. Then she would lower the price to compete with Jade Spirit Wines. Using a fake wine recipe would definitely cause them to lose miserably, but the problem was that it would definitely cause a huge impact. In other words, there would need to be a lot of consumers who would feel uncomfortable in order to be taken seriously. However, This also meant that this wine recipe would harm innocent people. Using the people to achieve her goal was not a good method and went against her principles. Xiao Haiqing bitterly smiled. Yun Zhao is a bit unscrupulous, right? But this method is the best. If he wants the wine recipe, then we'll give it to him. Otherwise, if today James has crooked thoughts, tomorrow there will be others who will use the same method to obtain benefits from you. Rather than that, it's better to eliminate all future troubles. As long as the plan succeeds, from now on, even if you put the wine recipe in front of others, they might not dare to use it. Of course, the premise is that the fake wine recipe has enough similarities. It's best if they can't find the difference. If it was someone else, she wouldn't think that they would be able to research something that was exactly the same but with different effects. But if this person was Jing Yun Zhao, she believed it. Although she hadn't seen her medical skills, she knew that Tang Zihua was cured by her. She also knew that there were many people in Serene City who were her patients. Moreover, she sat at the same table as her. Every day, she saw her writing and drawing on a piece of paper, all of which were all kinds of herbs. Sometimes, she would even tell her what kind of effect the combination of several herbs would have. So she could definitely do it. Jing Yunzhao looked at Xiao Haiqing and thought for a moment before saying, I can make an identical one. The taste is similar to the real wine recipe, but after drinking it, the body will feel hot and uncomfortable. But it won't affect the body's health. If you must use this method, you can use the east wind and add fuel to the fire. There's no need to really cause a big impact on innocent people. It was just that his body felt hot and uncomfortable, unlike the wine from Jade's Spirit Wine Company, which was good for the body. As for the content of the wine recipe, it was actually very different. The whole order was messed up, and several herbs with similar medicinal properties were replaced. More importantly, the fake wine recipe didn't use the 100-year-old ginseng produced in the space, and the taste of the fake wine recipe couldn't be detected unless it was a person with a very sensitive taste. As for the instrument test, although the order of the herbs was wrong, the types of herbs were basically the same, so there was no need to worry. That's great. It's easy to find extras, Xiao Haiqing said. But Haiqing, you praised Jiang Rong out of the blue today. It can't be that you just wanted your father to scold her, right? Why are you wasting your breath? Jing Yunzhao asked again. Although Xiao Daoan had reprimanded Jiang Rong today, it wouldn't be long before he wouldn't hold it against Jiang Rong anymore. He couldn't possibly suspect her every day just because she looked pretty good, right? Therefore, she felt that if there were no follow-up measures, the words at the dining table would be useless. Xiao Haiqing's eyes flashed with killing intent. That's right, I have other ideas. Yunzhao, it's true that my father is a selfish person, but the only person who could make him realize his own ambitions so quickly and use everything around him is Jiang Rong. If it wasn't for her sowing discord every day, I wouldn't have become a commodity in my father's eyes so quickly. She's smart in her calculations, but the person who catches the eagle will be pecked in the eye by the eagle one day. Chapter 591. As Xiao Haiqing spoke, her smile was cold and elegant. If it wasn't for the fact that she looked a little immature, she could almost match the appearance of Xiao Haiqing in her memory from her previous life. Xiao Haiqing was currently filled with resentment. Jing Yunzhao knew that it would be impossible to clean it up in a short period of time. As for what she wanted to do, even if it wasn't virtuous enough, Jing Yunzhao didn't want to care too much. She immediately took a pen and paper and wrote down the fake wine recipe. Jing Yunzhao's original handwriting was relatively clean, neutralizing the masculinity and gentleness. In order to avoid James' suspicion, she thought about it and wrote it boldly, making it look like it was written by an old man. Then, she found a very delicate box and put the wine recipe in. She looked very serious. However, Xiao Haiqing didn't hand it over for a few days. She only agreed to James's request the next day. The two returned to the county. Xiao Haiqing stayed close to Jing Yunzhao for a few days. She pretended to be very good. At night, she even stayed in the house where Jing Yunzhao and Suchu lived together, creating an opportunity for the origin of the wine recipe. However, seeing Xiao Haiqing and Jing Yunzhao acting so mysteriously, Suchu was confused. She was supposed to stay at home during the holidays, but when she thought of Jing Yunzhao's alienation, Suchu and Gan Jinshin moved back. These days, they took the initiative to talk to her every day. They seemed to be more clingy than Xiao Haiqing. Cousin, look, this is the dish I made. Try it and see how it tastes. Cousin, do you want to accompany me to buy clothes? Cousin, Grandpa asked me to bring you some food. For the whole day, Jing Yunjiao would hear Su Chu's voice buzzing in her ears almost every hour. Not only that, other than her, Gan Jinshin also became a little strange. After a while, he would open his mouth and ask her some medical questions. It seemed like he was very eager to learn. However, it was obvious that he wanted to chat with her and amuse her. Finally, 3 days later, after Xiao Haiqing left, Jing Yunjiao couldn't hold it in any longer. Chu, what's wrong with you two these days? You've been knocking on the door nearly 20 times a day. Is something wrong? Jing Yunjiao asked. A trace of guilt flashed across Su Chu's face. 20 times? Is there so much? Hee, cousin. I'm just bored. If you two continue to be like this, I'm going to move out, Jing Yunjiao said with a faint smile. No. When Su Chu heard that, she quickly said, You can't move out. Cousin, I'm sorry. I know we've disturbed you, but you and Haiqing have been so secretive lately. You don't usually take the initiative to talk to us. The corner of Jing Yunjiao's mouth twitched. On the day of Xiao Haiqing's accident, she was in an extremely bad mood. She felt that she had implicated the people around her, so she wanted to keep a distance from Su Chu and the others. That was why she purposely avoided them the next day. However, she only wanted to remind them not to go out together as much as possible. She didn't want to completely cut ties with them. If she didn't take the initiative to talk to them, the problem was that the two of them would come looking for her every once in a while. Why would she need to take the initiative to talk to them? I wanted to talk to you about something these few days, but I felt that you two were a little strange, so I wanted to see what was going on with you too, Jing Yunjiao said helplessly. When Su Chu heard that, a trace of panic flashed across her face. Cousin, don't tell me you want to keep a distance from us? Su Chu thought for a moment, took a deep breath, and asked. Chapter 592. Jing Yunjiao stared blankly. He discovered that Su Chu looked very nervous. Her pair of eyes revealed a trace of mist, and the corner of her mouth slightly trembled. It seemed that as long as she opened her mouth to say yes, she would cry the next second. Su Chu stood at the door with an uneasy expression. Jing Yunjiao suddenly felt a little guilty. Yes, but also no. Jing Yunjiao said, I'm not prepared to keep a distance from you in the future. I just want to avoid attracting people's attention as much as possible at a specific time. After all, I'm not the same as you. Chu, you should also understand why there is always trouble surrounding me. It's because I'm an orphan. It's because my childhood was miserable. It's because I deserve to live worse than everyone else. Some people were like this. No matter how good the life of those who were born more honorable than them was, in their eyes, it was only right and proper. But they could tolerate those who started higher than them stepping on top of their heads, but they absolutely could not tolerate a person who had always been in a low and inferior position suddenly soaring to the sky. From her miserable birth, many people could feel God's tolerance. It would make them feel that they were not the most pitiful one. Some people enjoyed this kind of overflowing sympathy. But once one day the other party found out that she broke free from that sympathy and even did better than everyone else, they would get envy, but disgust would also follow. Since her rebirth, the reason why there were so many troubles was not that she attracted black, but that her experience was easy to bully. In contrast, in her previous life, the only people who looked for trouble with her from beginning to end were Qiao Hongya and her friends. Other people, no matter how vicious their appearance was, would feel balanced in their hearts when they looked at her. At most, they would make a few jokes and would not target her closely. But cousin, you should also ask me and cousin's opinion, right? Ask us whether or not we care about your body's troublesome constitution. Su Chu rubbed her nose, feeling wronged. I can't lock myself in the dark room forever just because I'm afraid of unknown dangers or troubles, can I? You're worried about bringing danger to your friends, so you don't want to make friends. This is the stupidest solution. Cousin and I have already thought about it. We can improve together with you. Haiqing always says that I'm stupid, so I'll learn how to read people's expressions. If you think that we don't have the ability to protect ourselves, Then we can be like Hai Qing and learn martial arts. With an expert like you by our side, even if we're as dumb as a block of wood, we'll still be able to learn a lot more than others, right? Suchu had a lot of principles. However, it had to be said that it was extremely convincing. Jing Yunzhao hoped that he would live an exciting and fulfilling life. He wanted to have a future and friends, and not avoid them all the time. Although Suchu and Gan Jinchen were ordinary people, they made her feel like she was surrounded by family more than once. It could be said that they were not just friends. She pursed her lips. Learning martial arts is very tiring. So you agree? Suchu glared at him. Ever since Hai Qing started learning martial arts from me, Kiki has been waking up at 5 in the morning. Jing Yunzhao's expression softened as he spoke. Suchu's lips curled up as she rushed over. She was extremely happy. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. When I was young and lived with my grandfather, I also woke up at 5 in the morning. Actually, I've wanted to learn from you for a long time. Who knows, maybe one day I'll be able to fly over roofs and vault over walls. Don't you think so? Jing Yunzhao's mouth twitched. He was speechless. Flying over roofs and vaulting over walls was not that easy. She could be considered as light as a swallow now, but she was still far from the legendary Qinggong. Moreover, the so-called Qinggong was not that magical. It was just borrowing some external objects and using internal energy to move. It was impossible to fly for no reason. Chapter 593. Suchu's smile was bright and youthful, which was very infectious. Outside, Gan Jinchen was sitting on the sofa, pretending to be serious, but he was actually eavesdropping. Seeing that Suchu had achieved her goal, he smiled faintly and went to wash some fruits, brought them over, put them down silently, and turned to leave. Yunzhao, let's start the special training tomorrow. I'll wait for you at the door at 5:00 in the morning. Suchu winked at Jing Yunzhao and smiled slyly. Jing Yunzhao was also amused by Gan Jinchen's act of acting cool. At this moment, Xiao Haiqing had left for Serene City and was in James's ward. Did you bring the things? James frowned. After seeing Xiao Haiqing, his mood changed obviously. There was another person standing next to James. Xiao Haiqing had never seen him in person, but she had seen his photo. However, even if she hadn't investigated him, she could tell from his expectant gaze that he wasn't unfamiliar with her that this person should be Zhua Haiyang, the owner of the Ocean Food Company, who had provided her with a place to stay. He was also the direct beneficiary of this matter. Xiao Hai glanced at him, and the corner of his mouth curled up. This must be Mr. Zhua. You are indeed a successful person, just a little different. After the accident, Jing Yunzhao had investigated this person. He had also read the information. Zhua Haiyang was only 27 or 28 years old this year and became the owner of the company after inheriting his family business. In the past, his company was mainly in the wine business, but the market was not good. His wine was not special enough, and there was no brand effect. He couldn't afford to spend a lot of money to promote it, so the business was getting worse and worse. In the end, he simply changed the business and developed some new products. Although the food was not very popular, it was not bad. The other party was stunned and then smiled. Miss Xiao, I accompanied Mr. James to Mr. Zhua's house before and found that your house was quite clean and warm, but a little lonely. Mr. Zhua, don't you have a wife and children? Xiao Haiqing asked again. His eyes seemed to be bursting with flames, almost swallowing his rationality. However, every second of every day, she would remind herself that she had to be calm and sober in order to live a better life. Only then could she prevent those who bullied her from achieving their goals. I'm not married yet, so my parents used to live at home, but they've moved abroad, Zhua Haiyang replied. He was a little surprised and even a little confused. Logically speaking, this Xiao Haiqing should be very agitated and hateful to see him, but her expression was calm, and even her tone was very intimate, as if they were old friends who had not seen each other for many years. This attitude was simply too strange. If she was an adult or someone with some experience, he would definitely be more cautious. After all, a person would not show an amiable attitude for no reason. However, she was just a girl. Perhaps she had been captured by Mr. James and was grateful to him. Zhua Haiyang was relaxed, and there was a smile on his face. Xiao Haiqing sneered in her heart. However, Mr. James did not like her change of topic very much. He frowned and said, I don't object if you want to chat, but now I just want to know if you've brought what we want. Miss Xiao, I don't want everything you've done before to delay time. I've got the wine recipe, but I don't want to give it to you yet. Xiao Haiqing smiled and said, those photos are still in your hands, aren't they? Besides, Mr. James, I said I would give you a gift, but you haven't signed for it yet. Chapter 594. Xiao Haiqing's eyes flickered with a ripple of light, seeming to be a bit arrogant and confident, which made James and Zhuo Haiyang stunned. Gift? Zhuo Haiyang was a bit puzzled. He didn't believe that this Xiao Haiqing would send anything good. After all, even if it was the wine recipe, it was the two of them who forced her to get it. Unless she was a fool otherwise, how could she take the initiative to let them take advantage of her? James frowned even more, his face full of annoyance. If it wasn't for the wine recipe, he would definitely teach this girl a good lesson. At this time, she was still thinking of stalling for time and even deceiving him. How hateful. It seems that the two of you don't have much patience. Xiao Haiqing chuckled. The wine recipe is in my hands now. If you want it, then you have to promise me two conditions. One is to return the photos to me, and the other is to accept my gift. If you don't want to, then forget it. It's just publishing the photos. So what if you ruin my reputation? No one will benefit in the end anyway. James gritted his teeth. What gift are you talking about? Xiao Haiqing heard and smiled. Mr. Zhuo's house is really a good place. Tonight, I will send the things over on time. At that time, I hope the two of you can prepare the things I want. Xiao Haiqing finished speaking and turned to leave. She knew in her heart that the other party could copy countless copies of those photos. Even if they really took out a copy, it would be of no use to her at all. Therefore, since she knew that she was going to lose miserably, she had to drag someone down with her. As soon as Xiao Haiqing left, the two men in the ward were confused and somewhat angry in their hearts. It was only a few hours' time. It wasn't that they couldn't wait. Zhuo Haiyang even prepared a wheelchair to bring James back to the villa. However, in order to prevent Xiao Haiqing from playing tricks, he specially hired 6 bodyguards to follow them. Only then did he feel relieved. How was the chat with Mr. James? As soon as Xiao Haiqing returned to the car, Xiao Daoan asked excitedly. Xiao Haiqing looked very obedient. Very good. But James asked me to go to Mr. Zhuo's apartment tonight. Dad, do you think I should go? Go. Of course I'm going. Xiao Daoan did not consider in the slightest and directly gave an affirmative answer. After he finished speaking, he seemed to be worried that Xiao Haiqing would think too much and hurriedly explained. Haiqing, Dad knows that he has wronged you, but what's done is done. I have no choice but to accept my fate. Otherwise, how am I going to answer to your mother? And Mr. James's legs can't recover now, so he can't do anything. I guess you went over to chat with him and drink tea just now. I think so too. But Dad, can you ask Annie Jiang to send me over tonight? I have something to say to Annie Jiang, Xiao Haiqing said again. The air in the car was stuffy and suffocating. Sitting in the front passenger seat, Jiang Rong had a bad premonition and was very irritated. These days, Xiao Haiqing was too polite to her. She was too polite. Now, she invited her out for no reason. She must be up to no good. Haiqing, Annie has to take care of Junjun at night. Jiang Rong immediately refused. Xiao Haiqing's eyes flashed with a trace of sadness. Annie Jiang, didn't you say before that I'm no different from your child? Last time, I was frightened in Mr. Zhuo's apartment, and there's a shadow in my heart. That's why I wanted you to accompany me. After all, if Dad went, he would definitely feel uncomfortable. But I didn't expect you to be unwilling. Okay, then forget it. Everything about Junjun is very important. What am I? To think that I was so fucking considerate of this family. In the end, you won't even agree to such a small thing. Then I won't go either. Chapter 595. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Haiqing seemed to have turned into a sentimental child. After saying those words, her eyes rippled, and a few drops of tears actually flowed out. The sound of sobbing could be heard, and Xiao Daoan was shocked. He turned around and saw that Xiao Haiqing's face was covered in tears. The 2 lines of tear stains were particularly eye-catching, and she looked like a child who had suffered countless grievances. It made his heart ache. Wrong. Xiao Daoan frowned. Stay with Haiqing. She's been in a bad mood recently, and she needs a sensible woman to teach her. Haiqing was a girl, after all. She definitely couldn't tell her father about her private matters. Moreover, last time in Zhua Haiyang's house, his daughter became James's woman in the blink of an eye. She was still so young, and such a sudden change must have been hard for her to accept or get used to. That was why her personality changed so quickly during this period. Her mother was no longer around, and the person who helped her soothe her heart naturally had to be replaced by Jiang Rong. Hubby. But Jun. Jiang Rong panicked. Isn't there still Sister Wang at home? We've given her so much money. Could it be that she doesn't even know how to take care of a child? After Xiao Daoan finished speaking, he glanced at the clothes she was wearing. Dressed decently. You're wrapped up like a dumpling. Just looking at you can suffocate me to death. Jiang Rong's heart suddenly felt uncomfortable. On such a hot day, she wore long sleeves and trousers, and the color was more dignified and dark. However, this wasn't the style she liked. It was because her husband had complained that the colors she wore were too bright. She was afraid that he would think that she was seducing people, so she specially dressed like an old woman. She didn't expect to be reprimanded again. Yes, Annie Jiang, your taste in clothes seems to have deteriorated recently. When you were waiting for me downstairs, a nurse even asked me if it was you. It didn't feel like you, as if you were a little older. You don't match my father well, Xiao Haiqing said with red eyes. Her father was also very fickle. After all, after praising Jiang Rong before, he didn't say anything about her clothes anymore. Her father couldn't possibly continue to disagree with Jiang Rong's taste in clothes because of her groundless words. Xiao Daoan cared about his face. After hearing Xiao Haiqing's words, he simply took his wife to a branded clothing store to shop. When they came out, there were a few bags in the car, and even Xiao Haiqing had a share. When she returned home, she saw that Xiao Haiqing's eyelashes were still wet. She said helplessly, "Child, when did you become such a crybaby? When you go to Mr. James' place, you can't be like this." Xiao Haiqing nodded. What of her? She of course. The child, the of a child. She, that, Jiang, was of she of a. Jiang was of a. She of she of her. Of a. Xiao Haiqing walked upstairs with her back facing Xiao Daoan. Where were the tears of grievance in her eyes? A cruel and dazzling smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Her fingers tapped on the escalator as if she was happy. Compared to Xiao Haiqing, Jiang Rong was extremely irritated. She didn't want to accompany. After thinking about it, she simply pretended to have a stomachache and fell on the bed, showing a pale face. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.